Yeah, it might. What Paul says, it's like Aaron Rodgers playing Sunday. There's a slight chance. Well, why do people keep deluding themselves into thinking that there was any chance of that happening? I think that there's a 20% chance that Aaron Rodgers will play next week, and only if the Packers are still in it. I think that there is less than a 1% chance that he will play on Sunday. I mean, everybody knows that the healing process for that injury is supposed to be 8 weeks. 8 weeks would be after the end of the regular season. It's not going to be anything different here, despite what people want to hope or pray or this, that, or the other thing. I do think the fact that Rodgers keeps practicing probably misleads and confuses people, but I suspect that the quarterback on Sunday is going to be Matt Flynn, and I do think that there's a chance that Aaron Rodgers would rush himself back and play next week against Chicago, but only if the Packers have a chance to go to the playoffs for winning that game. Anyway, football picking contest, beginning of the 5 o'clock hour, very likely no podcast for tonight, and I will not be here tomorrow. I will be off doing the Rush program several days next week, and for that reason, we will not have a football contest on air next week. Normally would air on a Friday, but I'm going to be doing Rush Friday of next week, and so on. We will, however, have an online football contest. The picks will be posted a week from Friday on Belling.com. This week's picks today. Next week's picks online on Friday, that'd be the 27th. I think I'm tired of announcing things. I want to get into the story about Milwaukee Alderman Jim Bohl under police investigation. It's a very interesting story. Apparently now, you can't muscle around landlords who allow weirdos to hang in your neighborhood without being investigated for a crime. Should you be able to do that if you're a public official or not? I think it's an interesting question. We'll get into that. But as I said, I want to open with this Duck Dynasty story, which is being talked about everywhere. When Phil Robertson, I should give the background on this, given that I didn't even know what Duck Dynasty was until a few months ago. I suspect some of you don't. Duck Dynasty is one of the highest rated series in the history of cable television. It is one of those reality shows, meaning it's not realistic. But it focuses on this family that made a fortune making duck decoys. Their family and their company is enormous in the duck hunting industry with duck calls and duck decoys and so on. They make stuff that helps duck hunters. And they're a very traditional family, and they're known for having long beards. They are not, however, idiots. They look like they're backwoods hicks, but they're actually fairly shrewd people, and they are also people who on the program overtly act out their Christianity. It's not something that's in the background of their lives. It's in the forefront, and they end every program with a prayer. It's rather extraordinary that show's on in the first place, given that, but it has found a remarkable audience. As I said, it's one of the highest rated programs in the history of cable television. It airs on the A&E network. I'll admit, I've never seen it. I've never seen most shows, and I've never seen this one. But after I said a few months ago on the show that I've never seen it, I was overwhelmed by the number of listeners who commented and told me about it and said you have to watch it and here's why it's a hit and so on. And I think it's fair to say that one of the reasons it's a hit, and I understand that I'm coming at this from a non-expert on the show because I haven't seen it, but I've been told over and over and over that one of the things that makes it a hit is they're stressing of family values, religious values, morality, decency, and their Christian beliefs, that this isn't something that's on the side of the program. It's up front and center and is a large part of the program's success. All right. Fast forward to now. The patriarch, the head dude in the family, is named Phil. He is profiled in the current issue of GQ magazine. And in that magazine, he was very public about a number of the moral beliefs that he has, including homosexuality. In the magazine, he said it doesn't make any sense to him that a man would be more attracted to a man's anus than a woman's vagina. And then he went on and talked about all sorts of other things that he considers to be perversions, like bestiality and so on, and says that God doesn't approve of any of those things. That's what he said in this magazine profile. The magazine hits the streets. GQ sends out a press release about the comments that Phil Robertson says, and a firestorm erupts over the last 24 hours. The largest anti-gay discrimination organization, GLAAD, immediately ripped Phil Robertson. The network that he's on, A&E, apologized for Robertson's comments, made it clear that he doesn't speak for the network A&E, said they're very disappointed in what it is that he had to say, and announced that he is essentially going to be taken off the program. Now, I don't know how you do a reality show and take out one of the people who's in the family, but that's what they're saying, at least for now. They're saying that his participation in the program is on hiatus. I understand how you take somebody off of a regular scripted show. You know, if you want to boot Kramer off of Seinfeld, you just don't have Kramer in the show. But if it's supposedly a reality show about a family, how do you not show the head of the family? Since the announcement by A&E that Phil Robertson's essentially been booted off his own family's reality program, an enormous backlash has come in the opposite direction. A website has been established in which hundreds of thousands of people are signing an online petition backing him. Numerous commentators, talk radio hosts like myself, commentators on Fox News and elsewhere, have stood up in support of Robertson, and now a fair number of Republican politicians are speaking out as well. Very strong pro-Phil comments from Sarah Palin, United States Senator Ted Cruz, and Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal, who comes from the Robertson family state. All of them standing up for Robertson's rights to express his opinions. I want to weigh in on this. It is remarkable that the crowd that wants to silence Robertson and throw him off his own TV show is the crowd that says Robertson's views are intolerant. These are the tolerance people. They are the ones that say that anyone who would say anything like what Phil Robertson says, why, these are intolerant people. We live in an era in which we should be tolerant of all people and all lifestyles. He isn't. That's what I find interesting, because the people that are proving to be intolerant are the ones that want Phil Robertson silenced. They're the intolerant ones. They can't literally tolerate the views of someone like Phil Robertson. They suggest that they're tolerant because they're accepting of gays. But they're not tolerant of people who think that homosexuality is wrong. So who's really intolerant here? Anyone who ever dares express opinions based on a literal reading of the Bible is forced to shut up. Well, you tell me what intolerance really is. This is religious intolerance. Phil Robertson is now essentially being told that if he talks publicly about his religious beliefs, and by the way, he's not part of some odd, obscure religion. He's a Christian. You may have heard of the religion Christianity. People who believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of and is in fact God. You may have heard of that religion. He's being told that for expressing his views, which are based on his religion, that he can't essentially be part of the mainstream American culture, that he can't even be part of a show on cable television. The people who are telling them that are not only proving themselves to be intolerant, it is they that are bigots. The people who are suggesting that Phil Robertson is a bigot because of his views about homosexuality, in fact, I believe, are themselves bigots who simply will not condone anyone who openly expresses a point of view that they disagree with. This has nothing to do with whether or not Phil Robertson is right or wrong. It has to do with whether or not Here in the United States of America, you're even allowed to express your opinions anymore if your opinions don't mesh with the cultural elite in this country. Why can't we express our opinions? The lefty thought police is more powerful than ever. First of all, the views that Robertson expressed are held by millions of Americans. True, our views toward homosexuality are rapidly changing. Support of gay marriages now has gone from a fringe kook position to a mainstream position that may now be held by majorities. Still, what Robertson stated and the beliefs that he holds are views that are held by tens of millions of people here in the United States. Are we saying that these tens of millions of us are no longer allowed to talk in public? Only if you think the things you're allowed to think can you express your thoughts verbally? Are we saying that Phil Robertson has a right to these views, but he doesn't have a right to express them? As for a network like A&E, which is throwing him off his own show, what is it that they think made the show a hit in the first place? It's the fact that he has traditional views and that he openly expresses his Christianity. In other words, what they want is they want to appeal to an audience, but don't want that audience to be allowed to speak. They look down their noses at the very audience that they seek through that program. Well, let's put on a show that all the bigots will watch. That's how they view it. But God forbid, literally God forbid, that one of those bigots would actually start talking aloud. This situation is not an aberration. There are very few places anymore in the popular culture where individuals who have conservative beliefs are even allowed to express them. Most talk radio stations in America grant people like myself the ability to say some of these things. Fox News is another outpost where you're allowed to say some of this stuff. Some. But that really is about it. I'll use as an example what happened when a prominent conservative was actually employed by someone in the mainstream media. You may recall the flap over Rush Limbaugh's comments about Donovan McNabb, in which he made the comment, a comment that I agree with, that Donovan McNabb was somebody that was propped up and covered for by the media who had this tremendous desire to be able to tell the story of a talented black quarterback. I happen to believe that Donovan McNabb was given a tremendous pass throughout his career. His Jay Cutler-like career, his Tony Romo-like career, very good comparisons, because he was black. I think that McNabb was never fully given the heat that he deserved for his falling apart during a final drive in the Super Bowl. And I think it was because he was being given a pass, and I think that race had everything to do with it. Rush Limbaugh said this, and he was fired from ESPN only weeks after starting his job. This is typical. Rush Limbaugh isn't going to be fired from his talk radio program because he works for a company, the same company that I work for, that allows him to express these opinions. But you go outside the handful of companies that allow you to say what you think, and you're forced to hush yourself up. Now, even in those places, it's not like there are no limits. I've walked over the line and been smacked around myself. But there are at least still some places you're allowed to talk, but they're few and far between, and the A&E network evidently isn't one of them. The whole point of freedom that we have in our country is to give people the right to pretty much do and say what they feel and believe. It, in fact, is the reason that gay Americans can live a life very different than gay Russians can live. It's freedom. Even though many people consider homosexuality to be sinful, we don't do anything about it. They're allowed to be gay. They're now even allowed in many places to marry. And that's happened because we allow individual liberty, individual freedom, and we allow people to pursue their own beliefs, their own lifestyles, their own desires. And we allow them to talk about their gayness and talk about why they believe that it's perfectly appropriate. We allow that. But we are becoming less and less free because we are silencing and smacking down anyone who disagrees with those opinions. That is profoundly un-American. Furthermore, it's a violation of the most basic right we have. One of the founding premises of this country was religious freedom. The Pilgrims who came here because they wanted to pursue the religion of their choice. Religious freedom in the United States has allowed us to have many different religions, even in a country in which Christianity is the dominant religion. But now, if you have a traditional view of Christianity, you're not even allowed to express it. Can you be any more un-American than that? There have been a number of outstanding comments that have been made in the wake of the Duck Dynasty fiasco. There are all sorts of rumblings about what A&E is going to try to do with the program. Season 4 starts next month, which, by the way, will feature Phil Robertson because they've already completed filming for Season 4. They've literally fired a guy, but allowed him to be on the air for another year because that year is already in the can. A&E doesn't want to cancel the program because it's an unbelievable hit for the network. It's the biggest hit in the history of A&E, and as I said, it's one of the highest-rated cable television programs of all time. So they want to keep the program, but they don't want the star of the program on there because they also don't want to get heat from a bunch of people who claim that they're anti-gay. A&E is obviously terrified that there's going to be an advertiser and sponsor boycott, and even a boycott of the networks from gay activists. So they cave to that group by making it clear that people who are in a different group don't have any rights at all. This isn't new. It's just getting worse and worse and worse, the speech codes that lefties enforce. They have become more and more intolerant because they're able to get away with it. When any conservative, or in this case, religious person expresses a point of view, they simply deny that it's a point of view and instead call it bigotry. Well, that's pretty convenient, isn't it? Well, two can play that game, and I think they're the ones that are bigots. They're bigoted against mainstream Christians. They just are. Look up the definition of bigotry and tell me that that's not what they're exhibiting here. I got a whole pile of junk here on the Duck Dynasty thing. Phil Robertson himself, who apparently is being pressured into apologizing and hasn't yet, said that he told A&E at the beginning of the program, before they ever aired an episode, look, if you're going to do this with me and my family, I'm going to be talking about God. We're going to do that on the show, and if you don't like it, don't put us on in the first place. He also told a story earlier this year that when the program first started, the network asked him that the prayer that they do at the end of each program, that they stop using the word Jesus, that they instead simply say God. Phil Robertson said he refused to do that. He said, we're going to say Jesus. That's who we believe our God is. A&E backed out on that. The point is that they've been queasy about this program from the beginning. They're more than willing to take in the ratings and take in all the money they're getting off of it, but they're afraid of it. They're afraid of the very thing that's making them successful. Do you agree with Phil Robertson? That shouldn't be the point. Now, I'm not suggesting that anybody can be able to say anything they want here in the United States and still be propped up on a television program. You get up there and you advocate killing your fellow citizens. You get up there and you advocate sexually molesting children. Of course not. It's not like I'm suggesting that we live in a limitless world. There are always going to be limits. But it is pathetic that we live in a world in which Phil Robertson's comments are outside those limits. I'm holding in my hand the story from the Hollywood Reporter. Quoting A&E statements, we are extremely disappointed to have read Phil Robertson's comments in GQ, which are based on his own personal beliefs and are not reflected in the series Duck Dynasty. His personal views in no way reflect those of A&E Networks, who have always been strong supporters and champions of the LGBT community. The network has placed Phil under hiatus from filming indefinitely. So they're a longstanding supporter of the LGBT community, but evidently not any type of supporter of the Christian community. Anyway, we're going to tee this one up for the audience. Your reaction to A&E throwing Phil Robertson off of his own program. By the way, have you ever seen this show? Paul, you have. Why are you snapping at me like that in there? Snapping. Well, give me a few thoughts that you have in general on the program and why you believe it's a hit. Paul says, and I'm acknowledging I've never seen the show. Paul says it's a hit because it reflects mainstream America. Do you believe that it's a hit largely because Phil Robertson has views like the ones he expressed in the magazine? Paul says that that's a big part of it. That this isn't Miley Cyrus and that sort of thing, that it's a kind of America that people aren't used to being able to see, what we used to consider to be regular old mainstream normal Americans. Paul says it's about the only show out there like it. That's why people are flocking to it. I agree with that. It is interesting that there are almost no programs that feature Americans who have traditional beliefs. How many regular entertainment programs do we have out there that show people who have traditional Christian beliefs, who believe that homosexuality is a sin? I don't think there's any. It's just being expunged. A part of America is literally becoming forbidden. You can't say what you think anymore. I contend this is why talk radio programs like my own, why Fox News Channel, and why Duck Dynasty are popular. People flock to the only places where they're able to hear people say or express opinions that are their own. But as I say, it's getting narrower and narrower, and now it isn't even Duck Dynasty anymore. If he's allowed to return to the program, clearly they're going to have a cork in his mouth. They're going to say, look, Phil, you want to be back on this show? You got to shut up and you got to stop talking about your religion and all that stuff. That's what we've come to. Anyway, the phone number is 414-799-1130. The Accunet Mortgage toll-free line is 1-800-838-9476. In my mind, there is nothing more wrong. The comments that Phil Robertson makes and the comments of people who say that homosexuality is completely natural, in my opinion, should be equivalent comments in our world. Both people should have a right to express their points of view, and people should have the ability to either agree or disagree with whomever they want. That's what a truly pluralistic society based on freedom really is. It would be equally wrong, I think, to throw somebody off of a program because he disagrees with Phil Robertson. You ought to be able to express your opinions in this country. To Joe and Muskego, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Hey, Mark, how you doing? This is just typical from the left that anybody that has God, that believes in God and Jesus, that they just take the legs out from underneath them, and that's what they're doing. They're applying their pressure, and it's money. It's money talking, and the only way.
No, it's not. No, it's not. It's the opposite of money talking. It's the absolute not. They're willing to make money off of somebody who talks about religion. That's why the show is out there. They're willing here to sacrifice the money in order to avoid being politically incorrect. That's how powerful these speech codes are.
Well, yeah, but the gays, are putting pressure on them, saying if you continue this, we will not support you. We will not advertise there. We will bother your people.
That's correct. As I said, that is correct. They were fearful. They were fearful. They were fearful of that type of backlash. But as I said, in the process, they risk losing the program that is making them all of the money in the first place. This has less to do about money than it does about the enforcement of speech codes that we have in this country, about the expansive list now of things that you're not allowed to say. You're literally not allowed to express the opinion that he expressed. Exactly. And by the way, his comments on homosexuality, while funny, I love the comment about the vagina and the anus. While funny, they're not out. He didn't suggest that they should be stoned. He didn't suggest that they should be put to death, as they are in some countries. He talked about it being unnatural and sinful, and his view of Christianity and how it applied to this. Now, I didn't read the interview, but I suspect he was asked about it, and he answered the question honestly. That's the part that's appalling about this. He expressed an opinion which is premised upon his religion, and he's essentially being fired from his job for that. And if the opinion was one that was a fringe, hateful position, advocating murder, as I mentioned before, advocating the molesting of children, coming out and saying that the bombing of the Twin Towers was a good thing, something like that, I wouldn't take this position. I'm not saying there are no limits. The position he expressed is one that is held by millions of people. And while you can claim that it is bigoted, it is premised on their religious beliefs that they ought to be allowed to have. Thank you for the call. To Sally on the North Side, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Hi, Mark. I just wanted to say I completely agree with you. This is absolutely showing the intolerance of the so-called tolerant side. And I am just so, I've actually been saying for a while that I wish that somebody would use the anatomical, term so that we can just say it, because it's like our country is all about sex when it's selling something, but we can't talk about it in light of, something that, he said it in a way that sounds crass and controversial, but it's like Kanye West, who was also on Barbara Walters' program last night, could say anything he wants to about women's anatomy. I mean, it's just so hypocritical. And he,
we live in a world in which major entertainment corporations, major record companies have for years put out music advocating the rape of women, have advocated treating women like sex objects, routinely call women hoes, on and on and on and on, and make a fortune off of it. But then when Phil Robertson makes his comments, that's intolerant. Right. A very, very good comment. In fact, I'll quote it when I get the exact comment in front of me, so I'm not going to tease it. In fact, I've got it here. Bobby Jindal, the governor of Louisiana, this is really good. Listen to this comment that he makes.
Okay.
It seems to me, here it is. This is Bobby Jindal. I remember when TV networks believe in the First Amendment. Yeah. It is a messed up situation when Miley Cyrus gets a laugh and Phil Robertson gets suspended. That's Louisiana Governor Bobby Jindal. So Miley Cyrus is going to be a headliner at the Bradley Center in a few months. She can get out there and bop around and flop her rear end around all over the stage, create herself as a sex object, somebody who was an icon to young children. That's something that we're supposed to tolerate and enjoy, and everybody thinks that it's hilarious. But when somebody dares to suggest that his own religion says that there are limits on sexuality, he gets suspended. There are a lot of people out there who think that what Miley Cyrus did is just fine and think that what Phil Robertson believes is wrong. I'm not denying that they have a right to that point of view. What they shouldn't have is the ability to silence someone who doesn't have a Miley Cyrus approach to life. We're supposed to live in a country in which the box is big enough that Miley Cyrus can bop around and turn herself into a glorified sex object. But Phil Robertson ought to be able to hold Christian views and talk about them aloud.
Absolutely. And one of the problems with this is that Phil Robertson, this quotation is in print. It's in black and white. It's not on the show. He says crazy stuff on the show all the time, too. But he says it in the context of the show. And people are reading this who know nothing about him, know nothing about his family. And if you continue to read the quote and you look at the heart of what this man is saying, he is not being hateful toward people. He is not being, rude or discriminating against somebody. He is stating an opinion about a controversial topic
based on his religious beliefs. And even if he was farther out, I still think he ought to be able to say it, especially since I won't say the whole point because I haven't seen it. One of the points of the program is that this family, this Duck Dynasty family, believes things like this. They live their Christianity out there openly. And it's not like the view that he's expressed is one that is out of sync with Christianity. He quotes the Bible, whether, again, people don't have to agree with this, but the Bible's pretty clear. And the way I look at it, the Bible is completely in sync with the attitudes that Phil Robertson expressed. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to accept the literal interpretation of the Bible. We allow people to pretty much believe whatever they feel like believing in this country. But it is only when you hold these traditional beliefs and express them that you get tossed off of programs in our mainstream culture. And I'm telling you, one of the reasons it's happened is because our side has essentially allowed this. We never put up on any kind of Rush Limbaugh's thrown off of ESPN. Did anybody stop supporting ESPN? No. Phil Robertson's now thrown off of A&E. Is there going to be a big conservative boycott of A&E? No, I doubt that there is. We essentially allow this kind of crap to happen because we don't fight back. It's just true.
It'll be interesting to see what happens because 24 hours from now, there's going to be a lot more stuff. Are the Robertsons going to keep going? Can A&E just tell them, the patriarch of this family can't be on this show anymore? Bye-bye. I'm sure they're making a fortune off of this too. Who knows what they all think? I mean, they may think, oh, gee, I wish Phil had kept his mouth shut. We don't want to lose the whole program themselves. On the other hand, if they dump it, some other channel may choose to pick it up and say, okay, we'll bite the bullet. We'll take the heat here. The only leverage they have, though, is this. That show's successful. If this was just, there's a billion of these reality shows out there. That's why I'd never heard of Duck Dynasty. If they weren't a hit, there'd be no leverage at all. It's kind of remarkable that they're willing to do this to a guy they're stars. They deliver huge ratings. As I said, it's one of the highest rated programs in the history of cable TV. It draws numbers out there like The Sopranos were, like The Sopranos were drawing. That's how huge it is. So they didn't just go after some obscure show that who cares if they have to cancel the thing. They went after a bona fide major hit. That means that no one is free in the popular culture anymore to express their points of view. Thank you for the call. We're going to continue on this after the break. It's 3:42 at News Talk 1130 WYSN.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
I-94 westbound already solid.
Have you ever seen the show?
I have not.
You have. He and I haven't. Paul watches it every week.
Yeah,
Paul's a groupie of it. He even owns the lip balm that they sell. What's the lip balm for? Because it's special for when you blow on the duck call, that you have the right lip balm to blow onto the duck call. You're an expert. You have the duck. You have the Duck Dynasty baseball caps and all that. They're selling the clothing and everything. It's branded everywhere. There were people on Halloween dressed up as the two big ones that I saw on Halloween were the Duck Dynasty people. What was the other one? I forget. Anyway, the traffic.
94 westbound is crowded from 25th Street out to 84th Street. It's 20 minutes downtown to Moreland Road, running slowly on 45 southbound already.
The other big Halloween costume that I was thinking of was the Breaking Bad guy, the meth lab guy. People were dressed up as him, and they were dressed up as the Duck Dynasty people. That's how hot the show has gotten. So if you can become as big as Phil Robertson and Duck Dynasty is, and still be slapped down, imagine how little clout or ability to speak a regular old person is, or a lower level celebrity. If they can take this guy out, imagine with somebody who doesn't have the tremendous amount of dollar value to his network. what could happen to that person?
45
supposed to start the traffic back up.
45 southbound is 17 minutes to get from Good Hope Road to the Zoo Interchange, and 894 northbound unusually heavy this afternoon from Beloit Road to Greenfield Avenue. 8 minutes to get from the Hale up to the Zoo. With rapid traffic on News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm John.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender, NMLS ID 255368. This is Brian Wickert with important information for anyone on the fence regarding locking in a rate for the most common and sought-after mortgages in America. The 30-year, 20-year, and 15-year fixed-rate loans that are guaranteed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Here's the scoop. Fannie and Freddie's regulator announced just last week that starting with loan applications in early January, they'll jack up the fee they charge to guarantee loans, which gets passed directly through to you in either a higher rate or higher closing costs. That makes two government entities now looking to make mortgage rates higher in the very near future, the Federal Reserve and now the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Dang. Rarely do we know for certain that rates are going up, but this is one of those times. So today's the day, and now's the time to get over to Accunet.com and click on the blue button, or tap this number into your cell phone, 262-781-1100. 262-781-1100. That's 781-1100. Or go to accunet.com.
This year, for the third year in a row, the property tax bill went down on a median valued Wisconsin home. That's great news for taxpayers, thanks to Governor Scott Walker. Since 2011, Governor Walker and the Republican legislative majority have worked together to cut property taxes, cut income taxes, and simplify the tax code. Our budget is balanced, and Wisconsin is back on the right track. We'd just like to say thank you, Governor Walker, for putting taxpayers first.
Paid for by the Republican Party of Wisconsin. Mike Jones, Treasurer.
Happy holidays from T-Mobile. Let's go. Well, it's Christmas time. Can't you hear? People buy phones this time of year.
If you're gonna put a phone underneath the tree, remember not to get it from AT&T.
You can get a Samsung without the big price. They got holiday tags on every Galaxy device. No annual service contract. You're totally free.
And you'll never pay a single overage fee.
T-Mobile's in the house bringing holiday cheer. Unwrap a Galaxy for a Happy New Year.
See participating stores for details.
A smile tells a lot about a person. What does your smile say about you? Smiling makes you happy. It makes others happy. And it can even help you land a job. Racine Dental Group can help you show the smile you want others to see. Their talented team of dentists and specialists all have the same goal: to bring out your best smile. From general and cosmetic dentistry to dental implants and orthodontics, the future of dental care is here for you at Racine Dental Group. Log on to RacineDentalGroup.com to schedule an appointment. Racine Dental Group, the future of dental care for you.
A quiz so challenging, even Mensa members quake with uncertainty. The 2013 edition of the Mark Belling Year-End Current Events Quiz starts at 3 on Friday, January 3rd. The winner gets an incredible prize package featuring a $1,500 certificate from Master Z's in Waukesha. Master Z's specializes in pool tables, rec room games, patio furniture, and much more. Plus, the package has laptops from iNet and a trip to Jamaica from Funjet Vacations. Fire up the gray matter and play the Mark Belling Year-End Current Events Quiz, January 3rd on News Talk 1130 WISN.
A new day dawns.
This is the WISN Morning Briefing.
People need a burst of information.
Milwaukee Mayor Tom Barrett spent a second night in the hospital where he's being treated for exhaustion following a 20-kilometer run.
And analysis that puts the news in context.
Senator Graham was right when he said there was a continuing drop in support from Americans for not only Obamacare, but President Obama and his fellow Democrats who passed the bill while telling lies to the public about its likely impact on their lives.
The WISN Morning Briefing, weekdays at 5. Welcome to the next generation of radio news.
The WISN Morning Briefing is powered by Piranha Paper Shredding, making your security the top priority.
Lord, it's like a hard candy Christmas. I'm barely getting through tomorrow, but still I won't let
News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. I'll try not to have this weather go on for 24 minutes, but there is a freezing rain advisory for all of southeastern Wisconsin, including Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha County, beginning at midnight. The rest of the area beginning at 6 p.m. So a freezing rain advisory for all of southeastern Wisconsin beginning at 6 tonight. The lakeshore counties, though, Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha, not until midnight. That's because of where the temperature will be. For tonight, a mix of rain, freezing rain, and light snow. Little to no accumulation, however. Low 28. Tomorrow, freezing rain and snow before 3 in the afternoon. The best guess that they're giving us in Fox 6 on accumulations, about a half inch to 2 inches north of Milwaukee. less than an inch to the south. Again, that's going to be based on where the temperature is. So the concern here more is that freezing rain than it is any kind of snow. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy, low 25. For Saturday, mainly cloudy, chance of flurries during the day. A chance of rain, freezing rain, and snow coming in Saturday night. Sunday, cloudy and blustery with a chance of snow, possibly heavy now for Sunday. The afternoon high on Sunday, about 30 degrees. Again, it's where this temperature is and exactly whether it's above or below freezing. It's going to determine how bad the storm is going to be Saturday night or Sunday. But they are opening the possibility here of heavy snow for Sunday. A little bit warmer than that 30, though a lot of it could continue to be the rain or the freezing rain. We're discussing the major American story, and this thing is now everywhere. The patriarch of the Duck Dynasty family, a major reality show on cable television's A&E network, is essentially being booted off the program because of comments that he made in an article, in an interview with GQ magazine about homosexuality, in which he said that his Christian religious beliefs lead him to believe that there's nothing natural about this. He referred to what he feels are deviant sexual behaviors and says it's pretty clear that God doesn't approve of this. For this, he's been booted off of his program. There is a significant backlash now developing from supporters of Robertson's right to stand up in the United States of America and say what he thinks. To Jerry in Green Bay, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Mark, the funny thing is that if we hold our opinions and it doesn't agree with the Hollywood left, we have to be silenced. They're the ones that are bigots because they don't want us to be able to hold our opinions at all.
That the people who claim to be tolerant are the ones that are intolerant. The ones who always say we need to have a conversation about all these things, they don't want a conversation, they want a monologue. They want to be able to stifle the viewpoints of anybody who disagrees with them. They don't. This is how they've advanced their cause on all sorts of issues. They just claim that our side's a bunch of bigots, and whenever we say anything, we're bigoted. We shouldn't be allowed to express our point of view. They use this tactic over and over and over again. It's wrong. It's un-American.
Right, and even though probably the majority of American people agree with the comments that he made.
Yeah, I don't know that that's true anymore. But it's certainly not. It's certainly not a fringe viewpoint.
It's correct. It's not a viewpoint, and they try to make it seem like the American people don't believe that way, but the majority of American people that may not agree with the lifestyle still get it shoved in their face by the Hollywood left.
The people who claim that Robertson shouldn't be allowed to express his point of view are the ones that have jammed, as you said, in our faces, every kind of deviant lifestyle and behavior that offends so many other people. If you're a God-fearing Christian person, your sensibilities are assaulted daily by the mainstream media. When somebody, however, expresses your sensibilities, you're told that you have to shut up because you've offended everyone else. Well, why are they the only ones that get to offend anyone? Why doesn't Phil Robertson get to be offensive? If all the rappers can be offensive, if Miley Cyrus can be offensive, if Britney Spears can flash her rear end around for her whole career, if those people can do all of those things, why can't Phil Robertson get to offend people? What they want to do is allow their side to offend as many people as possible all the time. But they don't want to allow anyone else to do anything that might offend them. Thank you for the call. Tom on the West Side, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Well, first, I'd just like to say I disagree with A&E. Obviously, he didn't do anything illegal or encourage anybody to do anything illegal. But I guess my question is, why is GQ even publicizing this and making a press release? I mean, is there an agenda? Why are they even asking this question?
Well, I mean, they asked him what he thinks because he's an he's a provocative character.
Do they release a press release on every person who answers this question, or just people that disagree with them?
Well, I think they probably put, and I don't know that they put out a press release. So usually what happens is magazines that have 2 or 3, 4 stories, they'll put out press releases on the stories that are in their magazine. They knew they had something hot here because they knew what he expressed was controversial, and it is controversial. I don't have any problem with them publicizing it. If Phil Robertson didn't want the comments publicized, he shouldn't have said them. I'm objecting to the reaction to it. I mean, if somebody comes on my program and says something controversial in a recorded interview, we might promo it before the show. I don't have a hang up with that.
I'm just dumbfounded by A&E's reaction that they're pretty much smothering everybody, saying you can't have any views that don't agree with A&E.
It's moving in the direction of labeling almost anyone that has a mainstream, conventional Christian moral take on life as to not even be able to talk. When you take a look at some of the things that have gotten Rush in trouble, you now can't even criticize somebody who would stand up on Capitol Hill and say that other people should have to pay for her birth control, that her lifestyle should be subsidized like that. True, he used a term that people objected to, but all sorts of obnoxious terms have been directed to people on my side forever, and nothing is ever done to them. Bill Maher went on HBO and said that the people who committed the act of terror against us on 9/11 were courageous heroes. That's what he said. He praised them for their bravery in being willing to die for their cause. His program is still on cable television. You're allowed to have that point of view and not lose your show. You're allowed to say just about anything you want in the United States and not have any sanction against you unless you offend liberals. If you offend liberals, then not only are you told to shut up, they're going to seek to destroy you. And that's the point that I'm trying to stress as to what's going on here. We have a thought police in place and a speech code that doesn't allow anyone to get up and say, there are people out there that are offended. Okay, let's suppose I've got a gay relative. I can't believe that he would say something like that. Part of living in the United States is that you not only we do allow people to be gay, we allow people to stand up and proudly proclaim their gayness, but we're supposed to be able to allow people to stand up and say that they think that that's repugnant. There are all sorts of people who are allowed to say that I'm repugnant. I can't shut them up and say that they can't call me repugnant, that they can't call me every name in the book. They're allowed to do that. But when people on our side say things that are deemed to be offensive, they are forced to shut up, even if those beliefs are premised on their religion. And in this case, come straight out of the pages of the Bible. Thank you for the call. 356 News Talk, 1130 WIS.
At Associated Bank, your company is not just a number in a portfolio. Expert relationship managers listen, understand your goals, and respond directly and creatively. We provide thought leadership for business strategies and connect people with the resources they need. Our clients agree.
We want a relationship bank. They've bent over backward for our business.
Associated makes it easy. It's about trust.
You have specific financial objectives for your company. At Associated, we have smart, practical commercial banking solutions.
I've met senior management, and they're helping me develop relationships with their top team members.
They've been our partner for nearly 10 years. They are a good fit for our business.
Find out what a good fit can do for your company. Associated Bank, a good fit. AssociatedBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Opportunity Lender.
The Jackson Call Agency has and shares the expertise and information that will impact your business's bottom line, even your net worth. Visit OC4B.com, then contact the Jackson Call Agency. Protecting assets, maximizing profitability, business insurance, Jackson Call. OC4B.com.
Hi, I'm Larry.
I'm Jim.
Hi, I'm Ellen from the UPS stores of Greater Southeastern Wisconsin.
We're considered the experts in packing. We have all the boxes. We have all the packing material. We're more than happy to take care of all their needs.
Well, we pack and ship people's golf clubs going away to the warm weather for the holidays. We do a lot of Kringle business. Anybody's been to Wisconsin always wants a Kringle when they go home.
Last year we shipped pies. And
Christmas cookies,
she
everything.
sent us pictures afterwards. They looked picture perfect, just like she made them.
Probably the most unusual item we ever shipped was a special gift a mother wanted to give to her daughter. She wanted a white Christmas, so our customer shipped a box of Wisconsin snow. And it was shipped overnight, and they had a great time, and they had a snowball fight. It was a great outcome.
For a hassle-free holiday, let the certified packaging experts pack and ship your special gifts. Mention this ad to save 10% off packing services. Visit your locally owned the UPS store Holiday Helpers today. From packing and shipping to printing and mailboxes, you'll love holiday logistics.
Happy holidays from the UPS stores.
Every once in a while, a company redefines an industry. In real estate, the playing field was leveled when high-speed internet and detailed MLS information became available to everyone. So what's being redefined now? Commission rates. Traditionally, 6% was what many companies charged. Redefine Realty is just 3.99% at closing. If you want the same full-service MLS package that you're getting now, but without the big commissions, then Redefine Realty is the company for you. Redefine Realty, redefining real estate commissions.
Hi, I'm Andy Burrish.
Many of you have built a successful business right here in Wisconsin. You know we are living in a global economy and what that means for your business. But you may not understand what that means for investing your personal assets. Political instability, currency fluctuations, and volatile markets have left you unsure about the best strategy. You need advice that includes an understanding of your unique situation in the world we live in. Why not turn to the top-rated financial advisor in Wisconsin? I've been named #1 in the state by the prestigious financial magazine Barron's for the last 5 years. My team, the Burrish Group, leverages a global perspective of UBS to craft an international investment strategy for your portfolio. Visit the Burrish Group of UBS on the internet or call us at 262-794-0872.
Barron's Top 100 Advisors is based on assets under management, revenue, and quality of practices. As a firm providing wealth management services to clients, UBS Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC offers both investment advisory and brokerage services. These services are separate and distinct.
From 20th Century Fox, critics are raving Walter Mitty is the feel-good comedy for the dreamer in all of us.
Where are you now? I can't really talk right now. I'm on my way to a volcano. What the?
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. December 25th, only in theaters.
Events that moved people spiked searches the most. Nelson Mandela, #1 on Google's trending list following his death earlier this month. Paul Walker, #2 after he died in a car crash. And the overdose death of Glee star Corey Monteith made him the 4th fastest rising search request. The latest iPhone in 3rd place, with Samsung's rival Galaxy and PlayStation 4 also in the top 10. The Harlem Shake and its dance videos bandwagon #5, Britain's Royal Baby and North Korea in the mix too. But Google's most searched people, all singers, except for Kim Kardashian, and that list is topped by Miley Cyrus. Lisa Brady, Fox News Radio.
If you're on the road or someplace where reception of WISN is a bit fuzzy, remember that you can hear us crystal clear on your mobile device through iHeartRadio. Download the iHeart app and you'll get no static at all.
News Talk, 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. The Bobby Jindal quote was really good. Bill Robertson and his family are great citizens of the state of Louisiana. The politically correct crowd is tolerant of all viewpoints except those they disagree with. I don't agree with quite a bit of stuff I read in magazine interviews or see on TV. In fact, come to think of it, I find a good bit of it offensive. But I also acknowledge that this is a free country and everyone is entitled to express their views. In fact, I remember when TV networks believed in the First Amendment. It is a messed up situation when Miley Cyrus gets a laugh and Phil Robertson gets suspended. As I mentioned, there's been a website that's been created devoted to try to get this decision reversed. It has now attracted several 100,000 petition signers. This story now from the National Journal, column by Matt Berman. Apparently, if you're a politician and have the chance to weigh in on the scandal surrounding a reality TV star who said, it seems like to me a vagina as a man would be more desirable than a man's anus, you don't miss that chance. And they then go into all of the comments from politicians on both the left and the right. Here's Sarah Palin. Free speech is an endangered species. Those intolerants hating and taking on the Duck Dynasty patriarch for voicing his personal opinion are taking on all of us. Ted Cruz on his Facebook page. Free speech matters. The reason that so many Americans love Duck Dynasty is because it represents the America usually ignored or mocked by liberal elites. A family that loves and cares for each other, believes in God, and speaks openly about their faith. If you believe in free speech or religious liberty, you should be deeply dismayed over the treatment of Phil Robertson. Phil expressed his personal views and his own religious faith. For that, he was suspended from his job. In a free society, anyone is free to disagree with him, but the mainstream media should not behave as the thought police, censoring the views with which they disagree. And as PC enforcers often forget, tolerance is a two-way street. Here's what Phil himself had to say about accepting and loving everybody. Quote, I myself am a product of the 60s. I centered my life around sex, drugs, and rock and roll until I hit rock bottom and accepted Jesus as my savior. My mission today is to go forth and tell people about why I follow Christ and also what the Bible teaches. And part of that teaching is that women and men are meant to be together. However, I would never treat anyone with disrespect just because they are different from me. We are all created by the Almighty, and like him, I love all of humanity. We would all be better off if we loved God and loved each other. That's Senator Ted Cruz, Republican of Texas, and he quotes Phil Robertson's own statement in which Phil Robertson makes it clear that he believes that the acts of homosexuality are repugnant and a sin against God, but he also says that homosexuals should be treated with respect and tolerance by people like him. What he's objecting to is the behavior and says that it is wrong. For expressing that point of view, he's silenced. You wonder why there are so few celebrities that are conservative? This is why. Phil Robertson's got about as much leverage as anyone given how lucrative his program is. Why do you think some lesser stars are unwilling to express their points of view on social issues? How many celebrities that agree with Phil Robertson will now ever say those words aloud? That's why they do this, to silence all of us. And it happens, as I say, largely because those of us on the right tolerate it and take it. This case, there appears to be a pretty good backlash building that is critical to happen because they're pushing this line farther and farther and farther and farther of the things that people on the right are no longer allowed to say, particularly people who are on the right with beliefs with regard to their religion. Look at the freedom that we have allowed Muslims to express their thoughts on their religion. You can openly be a Muslim in our country and suggest that Israel should be exterminated. It's on all sorts of websites. Dare, however, to express a mainstream Christian position. You see here what you get. And it's being done to somebody who's really, really big and has a fair amount of clout. Ryan on the South Side, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Hi, Mark. I really don't think A&E should have kick this guy off the air. I think when people's views are silenced, that's usually not a good thing. At the same time, though, I hear all these people talking about First Amendment rights and freedom of speech. I don't think that issue applies to this. The A&E is a private company, and they have the right to do what they wish.
Well, if you're talking about the constitutional guarantee of freedom of speech, that's still separate, though, from the general presumption in America that we allow people to express their points of view.
Well, we do, but we also allow, companies to choose what they air and what they don't.
Well, yeah, I know, but they don't. They don't. They don't have an absolute right to do whatever they want. They can legally knock him off, but the rest of us have a right to blast them for doing it.
Exactly.
What do you mean? What do you mean exactly? You don't. Well, I just said something completely contradictory to what you said, and then you pretend to agree with me.
I think you.
A&E, you're right. A&E can kick him off the air. That doesn't mean they're right in doing so, and it doesn't mean that they should be ripped for doing so. Your opinion and your approach here is exactly why these companies are allowed to get away with stuff like this. You would never be able to see a mainstream network sanction someone for their liberal points of view. Can you imagine if somebody got up there and made a pro-gay comment and they were kicked off of a major mainstream media? Oh, it just would never happen because their side, the other side, would never tolerate it.
It's a business. They get away with this because people are still going to tune in. And
only if people like myself and you and everyone else allow them to get away with it.
Correct, and I mean, so it really comes
Why do you think they did this?
It's a free market issue, basically, is what it is.
Well, yeah, but what part of the free market do you not understand that comes from people like myself being able to condemn them?
You are allowed to condemn them. I'm condemning them myself, but...
No, you're not. Should you believe they should be brought to their knees for this terrible violation of the basic American principle that you're allowed to have the religious police of your choice and talk about them? Yes or no?
Yes, I do, but I don't think it's.
There's no but.
I don't think there's any principle that they're violating here.
Yes, there is.
I don't agree with what they did,
yes, there is a principle that they're violating. There is a principle that they're violating. There's a principle in this country that says that if a person has a religious point of view, that they should be allowed to talk about that. It's a part of America. That's a principle that is as clear as any understanding that you can have of this country, which is precisely why it's never violated against a liberal. Name the last time somebody expressed a liberal position on a social issue and got sanctioned by the mainstream media in this country.
I don't know.
You can't name it, so don't go running around and saying that this is something that happens all the time, or that this is a free market issue. It isn't a free market issue. It's an issue about the type of country that we're going to allow ourselves to be. To simply say that a business has a right to do something doesn't mean that it is all right for them to do it. It is un-American what they are doing here. Furthermore, the mainstream media has such incredible power in our country. They are the carriers of the popular culture. They're the whole thing. You can name, as I said, on one hand, the media outlets that aren't part of this. Fox, some conservative talk radio stations, and maybe that's about it. I'm not sure that there is even anything else. Where else would Phil Robertson evidently be able to say these things and get away with it? Evidently nowhere. Name the TV networks that wouldn't have canned him.
The ones
I'd say maybe Fox. And I wonder if he was on regular Fox television as opposed to Fox News Channel. If he would have, but it might only be on the one channel of Fox where they'd allow this kind of commentary. That's not something that's healthy. It's not something that's good, and it's not something that should go uncondemned, because it's not part of what our country is. Now, he's right. They can kick off any show for whatever reason they want. They can cancel a series if it has good ratings, bad ratings, or whatever. It doesn't mean that they are right in doing so. You're right. Anything that doesn't express total support of the homosexual lifestyle is deemed to be bigotry, and you're not allowed to say it. That's what it's gotten to be. So then who are the bigots? Are the bigots the people who believe that anyone who objects to the homosexual lifestyle is wrong? I suspect. Menominee Falls and Greg, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for taking my call. My point is this. I think that this is symbolic, both with the media, politicians. You know, half the country votes, half the country doesn't vote. You want to call them the silent minority, majority. Duck Dynasty has great ratings from these people, but nothing's going to change towards a conservative viewpoint until we get more people to vote, because I pretty much guarantee that half of the people who don't vote are not all liberals. Most of them are conservatives.
Well, this doesn't have anything to do with voting. It's something actually more powerful. It has to do with money. A&E is willing to forego. If let's suppose the rest of this family walks, and maybe they won't. Maybe they're just all hacked off that Phil shot his mouth off. I don't know. I don't know enough about those people. Let's imagine the rest of the family walks. They take the show off. A&E is going to take a huge financial hit there. They're willing to take that hit rather than offend people in their leftist crowd. They would much rather lose the dollars that they're getting off of this program than face the backlash from gay protesters outside their doors and making a stink. And you know why that? You know why that is? You know why that is? Why they're willing to offend? They're willing to sacrifice the Duck Dynasty money, and they're not willing to offend the lefties. You know why that is? What is it? Why?
Well, where's the power based in the media?
No. This is the media. Why Why are they willing to do it?
Because the liberals control the media.
No, you're not. I know. I'm asking you the separate question: why it is that they are willing to lose all the money from Duck Dynasty, but they're not willing to put up with the picketing and the labeling and the condemning of them by gays. Okay. I can't keep asking you the question because he clearly doesn't know the answer. Here's the answer. The left is better at this than us. Do you think A&E is going to get the same abuse from our side that they would have gotten had they not dumped this guy from Duck Dynasty? That's why I support this petition site that's out there, and I support those who are condemning and criticizing A&E for what it did. Our side has got to be better at fighting back at this stuff. Right after he made his comments, GLAAD, that's the anti-gay discrimination organization, fired away at A&E. And A&E panicked. Well, now they need to get the backlash from the other side. Our side has to be better at pressuring these media outlets to do the right thing as the other side is at doing the wrong thing. In other words, you offend the left goes nuts. You offend the right, and a few people whimper around and so on. It may be that this show is so beloved by so many people that there will be a fight back here. Jindal and Cruz and Sarah Palin, as I mentioned, have talked. There is this, I got to get the address of that website. I got it in here somewhere. Something like I Support Phil or something. Do you have that? Well, look it up. You can tell that I couldn't find it. Well, look it up. Get going. Get off the stick in there. Support Phil Robertson website. Just Google that and you should get it. To Yvonne in Greenfield, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Yeah, I wanted to say that most employers have a clause that employees will not be discriminated against gender, race, religion, and so on. And clearly, Mr. Robertson is being discriminated against his religion by expressing his viewpoint.
Yeah, and it may be legal or it may not be. I don't know what the policies of A&E are. Generally, if the company doesn't like what you say, they do have a right to get rid of you. And that was this point that had that earlier caller so discombobulated. Whether or not they had a right to get rid of him isn't the point. It's whether or not our side's going to roll over and take it. Because the left never rolls over and takes anything. They just fight harder than we do. And that's why our rights to express our opinions are trampled on. The left has succeeded right now in essentially saying to anybody who's a prominent person in the popular culture that you can't say certain things. Right. And the number of people that are exempted from that is narrow. People like myself who work for an employer who's making, fortunately, enough money off of us conservatives that they're going to allow us to express our opinions. And we obviously have all sorts of limits that are placed upon us. But if you're, Phil Robertson's show is not on Clear Channel Radio. It's on A&E, and A&E decided that they're going to allow themselves to be shoved around by lefties, and I suspect that they presumed that there wasn't going to be enough heat from the Duck Dynasty people. I also suspect that behind the scenes they're fighting hard to get Phil Robertson to cave and apologize. And I don't know if he will or he won't, but based on what I know, I've read about him, he's not the kind of guy that's going to wuss out and say that he's sorry for having said this.
No, and can Phil Robertson fight back and say, well, look, the show's not going to be on your, we're going to pull the show, we're not going to do the show anymore. I mean,
I don't know that I don't know in that family, does he own the thing, or is it the family all owns it together?
Because, I mean, he's truly a
Well, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. I mean, what do the other Robertsons think about this? Do they want Phil to apologize so they can keep making all their money? I don't know.
Well, but I mean, if they are truly the Christian family that they're portraying themselves to be, and they want to follow the Bible to the word, which I believe that they do, then they should all walk.
Well, remember, Chick-fil-A halfway caved after they got a little bit of heat. Too. I mean, the pressure from the left to not say what you think on these conservative social issues is, as I said, overwhelming.
Sure. Well,
Paul, you can't find that online petition. Hundreds of thousands of people have signed it. They found it.
Well, and then the other thing...
Hang on, Yvonne. I'm yelling at Paul in here. Hang on, Yvonne. I'm yelling at my producer. It's in there somewhere. I'm at the end of the segment. That's why I don't have time to look for it myself.
Well, the other thing
Paul, go to Drudge Report. They mentioned the number of people who've signed the thing. I mean, I actually got it in here somewhere. I can't find it. Screen another call for me though on the process. Somebody knows the website. Call us because Paul can't. I've got it in here somewhere. It's something like I Support Phil or I Support Phil Robertson and it's an online petition that, last I heard, there are about 500,000 people who signed it. Maybe I got it in here somewhere. Here's the story about Robertson's claim that Annie, it was in April of 2013 that they told him to stop saying Jesus at the end of the program. He said he wouldn't do that. Here's the one with Sarah Palin's comments and so on. All right. Let's go to Doug in McQuantigo. You're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Good afternoon. My biggest problem with this is, did A&E stop running Alec Baldwin's advertisements when he made comments that were much worse? I mean, his opinion... He used slurs,
right.
What's that?
He used slurs.
He used slurs. So obviously he doesn't like gays. I mean, you can listen to what he says when he thinks it out and he makes a measured statement and apology. Oh, I don't have anything against gay people. Or you can listen to what he says when he shoots from the hip. And when he shoots from the hip, obviously.
Well, I've talked about, finally, Alec Baldwin did finally lose his MSNBC show, but I've used him as an example of the behavior you can get away with if you're on the left, which is overwhelming. His awful behavior toward his child, the comments that he's made over the years that are deeply offensive to many people who are conservative, and the fact that he's made anti-gay comments on more than one occasion. He did finally lose his program over doing that. That's the rare case of a liberal actually being sanctioned, but it went a long time, and I think he still has his advertising deal with Capital One. The reason why Phil Robertson doesn't get this pass is he makes it in the context of being a Christian conservative. So he doesn't get the pass that Baldwin, a liberal, gets for his own bigotry. By the way, we saw on the website, it's istandwithphil.com. You can sign the petition online there. And we want to get that number up to as many people as possible because, as I said, the right has just got to do a better job of fighting back against this sort of thing. Thanks for the call. I wanted to end the segment here, the topic here in this segment, so I'm running it real long because we've had a lot of really good callers. So let me squeeze in one more, then we'll move on. Robert in Waukesha, you're on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Hello, Mark. Yeah, absolutely. I think A&E was wrong for getting rid of him. There is another show. It made me, it was 10 times worse than this. It's some nighttime soap opera comedy where there's two gay guys that are discussing with like a little 7 or 8 year old little girl whether she's gay or not.
Yeah, right. You're able to do anything. You can. There is no line anymore of behavior that might offend people like yourself that you can't get away with. That we're supposed to accept. You mentioned all of the rappers, the Kanye West, the Miley Cyrus stuff, all of that stuff that's being done. That we're being told that, well, that's just expression. Grow up, be tolerant, be tolerant, be tolerant, be tolerant. But then they put on this program in which they're talking about gayness to a little child who can't even understand it. Why? You can't be upset about that. In other words, they get to be upset about everything. We can't be upset about anything. Thank you for the call. All right, we'll move on. This went on for a long time, but I knew it would, and I didn't want to carry it on to another hour, so I just pretended that the 3 o'clock hour lasted forever. Paul, I read the name of the site. You're out in the hallway. istandwithphil.com. I wonder what percentage of my audience has ever seen the show. See, you can be a huge hit, and still only a minority of people have ever seen it because there's so many channels anymore. Some of the biggest hits on television have not been seen by half the country. And the Duck Dynasty program is probably one of them. I want to end with this. Homosexuality is an issue in which public opinion in America has moved more than any issue I guess I can think of in the last 30 years. It used to be a mainstream position that homosexuality was sinful and morally repugnant. It's now a mainstream position that we are not in a position to judge. Gay marriage was a fringe position only a few years ago. It's now a majority position. Part of this is because gay activists have been very successful in lobbying and pressuring. That is their right. They have had every right to stand up and say that being gay is perfectly natural and okay. That's their right. For those of you who are new listeners to my program, I have said that my own view on all of this is that I don't care what people do in their life. If you want to be gay, you can be gay. You want to be straight, you can be gay. I don't care. It doesn't bother me much one way or another. I'm perfectly okay with however somebody wants to live their life, presuming that they're doing it with someone else who's willing. When you bring in children, I, of course, have a different point of view. You be whatever you want. What do I care? I don't care. Others have a different point of view in which they believe that it is important to stand up and say what they believe that God teaches. And others have a point of view that you should openly say that this is okay and acceptable and gays should be married and looked upon as everyone else. The point I make is that every one of those viewpoints, whether you agree with it or not, is one that somebody should be allowed to have and allowed to say. When you say something anymore, however, that is premised on a traditional Christian teaching, you are slapped down with unbelievable force. And that is as un-American as anything that you can imagine. The people who argue that we shouldn't be discriminating against gays are the first ones to get up and discriminate against anyone who offers a dissenting point of view. So they're not against discrimination. All they're doing is grinding their own axe, and they get away with it because those of us on the right, those who are Christian, those who believe in free expression, all of that stuff, have not been anywhere near as effective in lobbying, pressuring, fighting back, and trying to bust the kneecaps, metaphorically, of course, of those in the mainstream media who have trampled over all of us. 424 News Talk 1130 WISN.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
43 southbound accident cleanup in the median at Keith Avenue. Watch for delays approaching that scene. It crowds up again just past North Avenue into the Marquette. 16 minutes Brown Deer to downtown. 94 westbound crowded. 25th Street to 84th Street. 22 minutes downtown to Moreland Road. 45 southbound. Brake lights stretching all the way from Capitol Drive through the Zoo interchange. And 894 northbound heavy from Oklahoma to Greenfield Avenue. 6 minutes to get from the Hale up to the Zoo. If you see traffic problems, call the Westbury Bank Rewards Traffic Tip Line, 414-944-5111. With rapid traffic on News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm John Wyatt.
Happy holidays from T-Mobile. Let's go. Well, it's Christmas time. Can't you hear? People buy phones this time of year.
If you're gonna put a phone underneath the tree, remember not to get it from AT&T.
You can get a Samsung without the big price. They got holiday tags on every Galaxy device. No annual service contract. You're totally free.
And you'll never pay a single overage fee.
T-Mobile's in the house bringing holiday cheer. Unwrap a Galaxy for a Happy New Year.
Participating stores for details.
Most of the furniture made these days won't be around long enough to be called old, let alone antique. Hi there, Jay Weber here. At Graybar Furniture, they recognize a quality piece of furniture even if you may not. So don't discard a quality family heirloom just because it looks a mess. Graybar can restore it. Just call them at 414-258-2390 for an in-home estimate. Graybar's furniture professionals have the experience and the equipment to do the job right. They'll meticulously handcraft and hand-rub the life back into your precious heirloom, and they'll treat it like their own. I've toured their workshop, and as a woodworker, I'm blown away by the care that they take with each piece and the quality of the product when it's completed. You will not be disappointed in the end result. Give Graybar Furniture a call at 414-258-2390. See their website at craiggraybarfurniture.com or visit their showroom just 3 blocks south of State Fair Park on 84th Street in West Allis. 258-2390.
Happy Christmas and Merry New Year. If that sounded mixed up, it's nothing compared to the mixed up feeling people who hire a law firm because of a football player or actor have. Injured? It is about the money. Warshawski.com.
A York multi-stage variable speed furnace assures even home temperatures during the coldest of winter weather. And the fan motor York has engineered is ultra efficient too. And that matters because when it comes to your energy bills, electricity efficiency is just as important as gas efficiency. So when you hear built right, built by York, you can bet on it. See the man in the red van, and he'll tell you more about why a high-efficiency York furnace is your best choice.
Quality heating, quality heating, quality heating.
You know, before your furnace quits on you, it's not going to give you 2 weeks' notice. Nope, one day out of nowhere, she'll have breathed her last breath. And that's why it's good to know the man in the red van, because he'll never leave you out in the cold. In fact, he can have your new furnace installed in only a few hours. This is Greg Smith from Quality Heating. And this winter, remember the man in the red van for your emergency heating needs.
You gotta see the man in the red van. Quality heating, quality heating.
The House of Harley-Davidson has decked the halls with everything you need for a full throttle holiday. Through December 24th only, keep your baby warm with 15% off all leather jackets. Check the Harley lover off your list with 15% off all HD cleaning products. And whether you've been naughty or nice, enjoy 90 days with no payments on the Harley of your dreams. Details at houseofharley.com. This holiday, if it's Harley, it's at the house. 62nd and Layton.
Fire up your DVR. Time for the Weekend TV.
Thursday night, it's not 2014 just yet, but ABC News looks back at 2013 on their annual 2020 The Year special. Take a trip down recent memory lane. Thursday at 9/8 Central on ABC. Friday, Lucy, Ricky, Fred, and Ethel return to TV in the I Love Lucy Christmas Special with the colorized episodes Christmas Special and Lucy's Italian Movie. That's Friday at 8/7 Central on CBS. Christmas Eve, The Grinch is back with a whole hour of How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Tuesday at 8/7 Central on ABC. Also on Christmas Eve, it's the annual showing of Jimmy Stewart's holiday classic, It's a Wonderful Life. That's Tuesday at 8/7 Central on NBC. Starting on Christmas Eve and running all day on Christmas Day, TBS has its annual 24-hour marathon of the 1983 classic film, A Christmas Story. It starts Tuesday at 8/7 Central and repeats every 2 hours on TBS. And that's your Weekend TV on iHeartRadio. Happy holidays!
A no-nonsense conservative voice for the 21st century. Jay Weber, weekday morning 6 to 10 on News Talk 1130 WISN Milwaukee.
Available everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Download it now.
Good afternoon, I'm Dan O'Donnell. Governor Walker is signing into law a bill that makes it more difficult to challenge schools' race-based nicknames and force those schools to change them. The governor had until today to sign the bill, veto it, or just let it become law without his signature. Milwaukee police are investigating a murder-suicide on the city's south side this morning. Officers believe a 26-year-old man shot and killed his 26-year-old girlfriend in the home they shared before turning the gun on himself. A federal judge has overturned a Kenosha man's conviction for poisoning his wife 15 years ago. Mark Jensen was convicted in 2008 of the murder of his wife, Julie. At trial, a judge allowed as evidence a letter from Julie before her death, warning a neighbor that if anything should happen to her, that Mark should be considered a suspect and that neighbor should go to police. Today, the federal judge ruled that letter should have never been admitted into evidence and ordered Jensen released from prison within 90 days. The 4 o'clock business report is brought to you by Cost Cutters. Wisconsin's unemployment rate dropped to 6.3% in November, the lowest seasonally adjusted rate since December of 2008. A year ago, it stood at 6.7%. On Wall Street today, the Dow closed up 11 points. The Nasdaq was down 12. The S&P 500 down 1. From the OverTheTopRoof.com News Center, I'm Dan O'Donnell on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Here's the latest from the Fox 6 Weather Deck.
A wintry mix of rain, freezing rain, and snow develops overnight. We'll see a low dropping to 28. That mix continues through parts of Friday, mostly snow north of Milwaukee, where an inch or so of accumulation is possible. We'll see a high near 30. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Justin Zolich.
The year was 1969. The Beatles released Yellow Submarine. A gallon of gas was 35 cents. The average price of a new home was under $5,000. And it was the year Racine Dental Group opened their doors to the community. Racine Dental Group has been providing general pediatric and cosmetic dentistry to individuals and families throughout the greater Racine area for 45 years. As they celebrate this milestone, they invite you and your family to become part of theirs. Visit Racine Dental Group or log on to racinedentalgroup.com to schedule an appointment today. racinedentalgroup.com.
iHeartRadio presents the nominees for the 71st Annual Golden Globe Awards. For Best Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, nominations went to American Hustle, Her, Inside Llewyn Davis, Nebraska, and The Wolf of Wall Street. The nods for Best Motion Picture Drama were 12 Years a Slave, Captain Phillips, Gravity, Philomena, and Rush. Nominated for Best Actor in a Drama were Chiwetel Ejiofor for 12 Years a Slave, Idris Elba for Mandela, Long Walk to Freedom, Tom Hanks as Captain Phillips, Matthew McConaughey in Dallas Buyers Club, and Robert Redford for All Is Lost. The Best Actress in a Drama nominees were Cate Blanchett for Blue Jasmine, Sandra Bullock in Gravity, Judi Dench as Philomena, Emma Thompson for Saving Mr. Banks, and Kate Winslet in Labor Day. On the comedy and musical side, the Best Actress nods went to Amy Adams in American Hustle, Julie Delpy for Before Midnight, Greta Gerwig as Frances Ha, Julia Louis-Dreyfus in Enough Said, and Meryl Streep for August Osage County. Best Actor nominations for comedy or musical went to Christian Bale in American Hustle, Bruce Dern for Nebraska, Leonardo DiCaprio in The Wolf of Wall Street, Oscar Isaac for Inside Llewyn Davis, and Joaquin Phoenix in Her. The awards will be presented Sunday, January 12th at 8/7 Central on NBC. Keep listening to iHeartRadio for the latest entertainment news. And good luck, everyone.
You do the driving, we'll do the listening.
Nobody sells for less than Lynch.
Delicious sausage, smoked to perfection.
Wisconsin's finest assortments of cheese, all beautifully wrapped and carefully packed into Wisconsin's favorite holiday treat, the Usinger gift box. Usinger sausage is made right in Milwaukee, in real smokehouses, with old world recipes, the best ingredients, and it's all locally produced, packed, and shipped. Nothing says happy holidays from Wisconsin like a Usinger gift box. Usingers will ship your gift anywhere in the continental U.S. Order by phone or online at usinger.com.
Homeowners, here's a shocker. You are paying for new windows whether you buy them or not. Hi, this is Terry Lodwick, owner of All American Window and Door Company. 71% of heating dollars and 46% of cooling dollars are lost through windows and doors. By acting now, you can save money. This year, next year, years down the road. An investment in your home is smart. Paying more than necessary for energy is not. All American Window and Door Company, 262-255-7170. Estimates are free.
And now, a look back at this week in history.
Hi, I'm Chris, and on December 16th, 1773, the Boston Tea Party occurred in Boston Harbor, obviously. December 19th, 1777, the Continental Army camped for winter at Valley Forge, and boy, was that one long party. Beethoven's Fifth Symphony debuted in Vienna December 22nd, 1808. In 1843, A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens was first published. December 20th, 1860, South Carolina issued an ordinance of secession, becoming the first state to secede from the Union. The first official basketball game was played this week in 1891. I'm sure it was a dazzling display of talent. In 1892, Tchaikovsky's Nutcracker Suite premiered in St. Petersburg. This week in 1898, Pierre and Marie Curie discovered radium. December 17th, 1903, Orville and Wilbur Wright made the first flight at Kitty Hawk, North Carolina. I'm Chris, and that's This Week in History.
Standing up for Milwaukee, this is the Mark Belling Late Afternoon Show. On News Talk 1130 WISN, we have a breaking story to start the hour with. And I want to credit Media Trackers for having this story first. A number of major public employee unions in Wisconsin have been decertified. They have lost their union votes. We literally are succeeding in breaking some public employee unions in Wisconsin. Literally, they won't exist anymore. This is a wonderful thing. The cancer of public unionization in Wisconsin is in the process of being eradicated. This is an outstanding thing. You'll recall under Act 10, one of the things that a union has to do every year is they have to get half of their membership to agree to recertify them. They have to get half the people who are part of the represented class. In other words, let's suppose I'm a teachers union in Oshkosh. You got to get half the teachers in Oshkosh to say every year we want the union to continue to be in place to represent us. The majority of teachers unions around the state have been recertified in this latest round. You'll recall that a Madison judge tried to block these recertification elections. He was overturned by the State Court of Appeals, which said that the union certification elections can continue. I can't give you the entire statewide list of those that have been decertified, but there are several here in southeastern Wisconsin. The Menominee Falls Teachers Union is done. 312 teachers in Menominee Falls. They therefore would have needed to get to 157, one over half, of the teachers to vote to recertify the union. They didn't get there. The Milwaukee Teachers Union made it. However, they have a separate bargaining unit for substitute teachers. The Milwaukee substitute teachers have their own separate bargaining unit. That has been decertified. There are 320 members of the Milwaukee Teachers Education Association Substitute Teachers Unit. Only 128 voted to recertify as a union. 161 would have been one more than half. They didn't make it. Here are some of the others. Germantown, Lake Geneva, Fond du Lac, Beaver Dam, New Berlin, Elko, Merrill. A couple of small ASME unions in Dane County didn't make it. So the majority of them that have already voted have survived, but a number of fairly prominent ones, including from our own area, by the way, from generally conservative communities, Germantown, Menominee Falls, New Berlin, even Lake Geneva and Fond du Lac, they didn't get the sufficient number of votes to continue to exist as a union. This means that they have to go out of business. They can't represent the employees, even in contract negotiations. This means now that in each of those communities, the government body itself will simply say what the pay level is going to be. One of the reasons this is happening is under Act 10, these unions can't do much for their workers anymore. They're not allowed to bargain on anything other than wages. What has gradually happened is many of the employees have simply stopped giving money, their union dues, to the union. So if they're not giving them union dues, they probably figure, what's the point of having the union? Act 10 succeeded in weakening the power of these unions to the point that many of the employees don't even see the point of having the union. There's another message in this. Once they were no longer compelled to pay union dues, we're finding that many teachers and many public employees didn't really support the union as much as they thought. You know, if I'm a true believer in a cause, I give money to it. People who believe in the NRA, they proudly pay their membership dues. People who believe in the right to life groups, they pay their money to this. You support a political candidate of your choice, you donate money to that. These teachers and public employees, many of them weren't willing to put their money where their big mouths were. If you backed the cause, you shouldn't have needed a law that required you to pay dues. Each of these decertification votes is critical because once the union loses the ability to represent the workers, it no longer has any standing or purpose. They can show up as regular private citizens and comment on things in the same way that anyone else can comment on things, but they're now in the areas where they've been decertified. And again, it's not the majority of unions across the state, but it's some of them. So those of you in Menominee Falls, you're now liberated from having a teachers union. It's done. They didn't make it. Now, there again are legal challenges still in place to Act 10. The state Supreme Court still has the rule of the latest. It's always possible that all of this could be overturned and the union recertification thing could lose. I don't think the state Supreme Court is going to rule that way. You'll recall that earlier this year, the Kenosha union was decertified. But the school board down there voted to negotiate with it anyway. They're being challenged in court on that. The Kenosha School Board gave a pay raise to the Kenosha Teachers Union, even though the teachers union there never got recertified. I believe that that was an illegal act, and they are being challenged in court for having done it. Now let me move to another story. This being reported by the newspaper this afternoon. Milwaukee Alderman Jim Boal is under police investigation accused of essentially trying to extort a landlord for not evicting a pair of sex offenders. This is a very interesting story. According to the report, Boal was upset that a landlord in his district agreed to rent a pair of apartments to a couple of convicted sex offenders. He told him he didn't want these people living in his district. I happen to think that that's what an alderman should be doing. Try to keep these creeps out of your neighborhood. For people who say, well, they ought to have an ability to live somewhere, let them live somewhere where people are willing to take them. I don't think an alderman should. An alderman who's standing up for his community ought to do everything in his power to get these pieces of human garbage out of his neighborhood. So he did this. The landlord said, screw it, I'm going to take their money. The next thing you know, a bunch of code violations were being put on the property by the city. The city police is investigating whether or not Boal retaliated against the alderman for not evicting the sex offenders by sticking the building inspectors on them and getting them to write up a lot of code violations. Presuming Boal did it, presuming Boal went to the landlord and said, I don't want you renting to these creeps. The landlord didn't back down, and he sicked the building inspectors on him. Is that something that ought to be considered a crime? Well, there's a police investigation into this, and Ball has not been charged with anything. I wonder if you could consider it a crime. If the building inspection code violations were legitimate, who cares why Ball called them in? I'm a citizen of Milwaukee, and I think somebody's got code violations. Don't I have the ability to report them? If they had code violations, what's wrong with whatever your reason for turning the guy in is? Now, were they bogus violations? If they're bogus violations, is the problem with the building inspectors who wrote up crap violations, or is the problem with Ball who asked them to investigate? I look at this and I can't figure out what Ball did that was wrong. Furthermore, does anyone think for a minute that this is the first time that an alderman may have stuck the building inspectors on a business in his district that he didn't agree with? For crying out loud, you had guys like Junior McGee shaking down for money in order to get anything done in his district. I suspect that a lot of aldermen may find property owners who they feel are not keeping up their property who sick the building inspectors on them. Do you think they might give a pass to a buddy of theirs? I suspect that they would. This strikes me as rather selective that they're going after Ball for it. What we do have here in southeastern Wisconsin is you have some areas that have a remarkable high number of sex offenders who live in the neighborhoods. There are others that just, you can't get a sex offender in there at all. The neighbors don't stand for it. They go nuts. They pressure the landlord. For example, the city of Waukesha has an astonishing number of sex offenders living in the city. They mostly live in downtown. It's largely because the people of the city of Waukesha have never objected to it. There are other suburban communities where you just can't get any of them placed. We have the Sexual Predator Act in Wisconsin that requires the notification of the community when these people are released and being placed back into the community. So when one of these people get out, public officials and anybody who cares to look into who's being released, they have the ability to find out about it. In some neighborhoods, you try to place a sex offender in a neighborhood, everybody goes nuts. In others, they pretty much say, okay, what do I care? Like the city of Waukesha, where nobody seems bothered by the number of sex offenders who live downtown. Nobody ever objects there. In this instance, Ball, who represents a section of the northwest side of Milwaukee. His district includes some nice neighborhoods and some high crime neighborhoods. He's trying to hold the thing together. If he did tell a landlord, look, I don't want you renting to this kind of garbage in my district, did he do anything wrong? I don't think so. And if the guy had legitimate violations and he told the city building inspector, hey, this guy's got violations, look into him, did he do anything wrong there? In my neighborhood, I've contacted the city over code violations. A couple of empty lots that look like a piece of crap, I've contacted the city over that. I didn't do it because I knew who the people were. But if I did, what would it matter? Suppose there's some guy down the street that I don't like. I call up the city and I say, hey, he's got a bunch of code violations. Shouldn't I be allowed to do that? Could turn in anybody I want. Now, the question is, did they write the guy up for phony violations? If so, should that be on Ball or should it be on the inspector who wrote up the phony violations? Viewing this story from outside, it strikes me that Ball is the victim here of a witch hunt. It's 447 at News Talk 1130 WISN.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
45 southbound, you hit the brakes just before Capitol Drive down through the Zoo Interchange. It's 25 minutes to get from Good Hope Road to I-94. 94 westbound, slowing from the Marquette Interchange out to 84th Street. 25 from downtown to Moreland Road. 94 eastbound, heavy from Moreland Road into the Zoo, also around Miller Park. It's 17 minutes to get from Moreland Road to downtown. 43 southbound, finding brake lights between Hampton and downtown. 20 minutes between Brown Deer and the Marquette Interchange. If you see traffic problems, call the Westbury Bank Rewards Traffic Tip Line. 414-94.
to spoil it with shoddy work.
Our upfront pricing policy helps.
Customers seem to like that. So you know what? We're sticking with it.
We fix your toilets, pipes, sinks, drains, and showers.
For top-notch plumbing, just call Conower.
Conower Plumbing, 964-4950.
For upfront pricing
and emergency service.
Hi, this is Steve Hale, owner of the Pac Mail Center on Blue Mound Road in Waukesha. Were you getting sick and tired of hearing our previous ads? I know I was. Let me give you a better description of where to find us. If you've ever been to our space, you know our driveway is 20 feet west of the Home Depot driveway. Well, our new location is the third driveway west of Home Depot, and it's only 150 feet west. In fact, if you've ever shopped at Sam's Club in Waukesha, our building is the big building you see there from the parking lot. We still do our small package shipping and our freight shipping, and we are still one of the largest U-Haul dealers in the area, just a little more difficult to find. But now the access will actually be better with a turn lane when you're coming in from the west. Many customers have never been to our location as we pick up freight shipments, so this won't be important to many of you. Just remember, you still have the same great service and pricing to get your items, no matter how large or valuable, from here to there. Just call us at 877-749-5500, and we'll look forward to calling you one of our customers.
This is Bob.
And Mike. And Guy from Brillo Home Improvements.
And there's much more to Brillo than just me and these two other jokers.
Hey. Watch it there, bub.
No, all kidding aside, at Brillo, it's more than just three heads.
And you'll find out quickly that there's a whole team leading, guiding, and directing your home improvement project.
Yep. Once we're given a go, Team Brillo hits the ground running.
From working with me, Guy, Mike, or one of our hand-picked sales pros personally,
to Melissa, our very talented lead designer,
to Maggie, who's as solid of an office manager as there is,
all the way to our award-winning carpenters and highly respected tradespeople.
It's a team effort, and you can bet your bottom dollar that we'll all be working our tails off for you.
For Neri, award-winning home remodeling,
and about as down-to-earth of an approach as you're going to find.
Visit BrilloHomeImprovements.com and check out our customer testimonials.
Happy holidays from T-Mobile. Let's go. Well, it's Christmas time. Can't you hear? People buy phones this time of year.
If you're gonna put a phone underneath the tree, remember not to get it from AT&T.
You can get a Samsung without the big price. They got holiday tags on every Galaxy device. No annual service contract. You're totally free.
And you'll never pay a single overage fee.
T-Mobile's in the house bringing holiday cheer. Wrap a Galaxy for a Happy New Year.
See participating stores for details.
A quiz so challenging, even Mensa members quake with uncertainty. The 2013 edition of the Mark Belling Year-End Current Events Quiz starts at 3 on Friday, January 3rd. The winner gets an incredible prize package featuring a family 3-pack of laptop computers. One for mom, one for dad, one for the kids. From iNet PC. iNet is improving the economy one business at a time. Plus, there's a trip to Jamaica from FunJet Vacations and a $1,500 certificate from Master Z's. Fire up the gray matter and play the Mark Belling Year-End Current Events Quiz. January 3rd on News Talk 1130 WISN.
If you're looking to make contact with any of our hosts, Weber, McKenna, Belling, Limbaugh, Hannity, or Levin, you can find their email addresses at newstalk1130.com. More of the show is coming your way in just a minute.
Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. We're putting up a link on Belling.com. It should be there in about 10 minutes. You can check out the union recertification votes in every school district in Wisconsin. It's a link to the state site. In some of them, the teachers remained overwhelmingly supportive. They're all the places you'd think. Like Racine, it was like 85% voted, maybe 80 to 85% voted to recertify. And then you have other communities where they didn't even come close to half. It shows that in some areas, the teachers are less adamant and less strident than they are in others. So if you want to check out what happened in your community, we're going to have that link on Belling.com. Give it about 10 or 15 minutes for it to upload on everybody's deal. Governor Walker, as expected today, signed the bill that watered down the crackdown on Indian team nicknames in Wisconsin. He waited until the very last day to do so. Here's the statement that he issued. After careful consideration of the arguments, both for and against the bill, I've decided to sign it into law. The bill creates a process by which the citizens in the community affected have input and direct involvement in the undertaking of changing a school mascot. I am very concerned about the principle of free speech enshrined in our U.S. Constitution. If the state bans speech that is offensive to some, where does it stop? A person or person's right to speak does not end just because what they say or how they say it is offensive. Instead of trying to legislate free speech, a better alternative is to educate people about how certain phrases and symbols that are used as nicknames and mascots are offensive to many of our fellow citizens. I am willing to assist in that process. With that in mind, I personally support moving away from nicknames or mascots that groups of our fellow citizens find seriously offensive, but I also believe that it should be done with input and involvement at the local level. This is a huge victory for the school districts that fought to keep their names, in particular, Mukwonago. Statement issued by the legal counsel for the Mukwonago School District, Samuel C. Hall. We are pleased that Wisconsin's elected officials have heard the overwhelming majority of Wisconsin residents loud and clear on this issue. We wish to thank Governor Walker for his approval of the legislation and Speaker Robin Voss, Representative Stephen Noss, Representative David Craig, and Senator Mary Lozick for their leadership and support on this important issue. We are proud that through the Mukwonago School District's principled stand on this issue, Wisconsin now has a law that eliminates the kangaroo court that school districts and residents had been subjected to since the Doyle administration. The new law on nicknames and mascots strikes the right balance in ensuring a fair process for review of long-standing nicknames and logos while also still maintaining Wisconsin's pupil non-discrimination laws. The new law also provides an important foundation for school districts and tribes to work together. And it goes on. Another story developing today. This one's huge. Remember the Mark Jensen case? The guy who was convicted of killing his wife by systematically poisoning her with antifreeze. During his trial, the trial judge allowed to be admitted into evidence a letter that was written by Jensen's wife when she was still alive. She gave the letter to a neighbor and said, if anything ever happens to me, give this to the police. The letter essentially states that she feared that her husband was going to try to kill her. Well, then she turned up dead. This letter was allowed to be presented into evidence in the trial. Now, 15 years later, a federal judge has weighed in. William Griesbach has said the letter should not have been entered into evidence because the defendant obviously can't challenge his accuser, which would, of course, be his wife. She literally, from the grave, implicated him in the murder of her. She wrote the letter, obviously, when she was alive, but it was presented into evidence when she wasn't there to vouch for what she wrote in the letter. The judge, therefore, claimed that Jensen didn't get a fair trial and has overturned his conviction. This was one of the most publicized murder trials in Wisconsin in some time. The thing that I find so offensive about the ruling by Griesbach is the reason that the defendant wasn't able to challenge in court the accuser is because he killed her. Well, by this standard, no one who is under siege or attack by someone, they may have told hundreds of people that this person is out to get me. If the person then gets him, he's rewarded because the threats cannot now be turned into evidence. You shouldn't be able to have evidence thrown out of court because you can't challenge the accuser when the reason you can't challenge the accuser is because you killed the accuser. It's an outrageous ruling. There's likely to be an appeal. If the appeal isn't successful, they're going to have to try to retry Jensen on 15-year-old evidence. He may well walk and get away with this. 457 News Talk 1130 WISN.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
45 southbound crash cleanup in the median at Capitol Drive. Heavy delays beginning before that point and all the way down through the Zoo interchange. 30 minutes to get from Good Hope Road to I-94. Stays crowded to Lincoln on the southbound bypass. 94 westbound, you jammed up from the Marquette to 84th Street. 23 minutes downtown to Moreland Road. It's slow going on 43 southbound from Hampton Avenue into the Marquette. 23 to get from Brown Deer into downtown, while the northbound side runs slowly back up to about Keefe Avenue. 18 minutes downtown up to Brown Deer. If you see traffic problems, call the Westbury Bank Rewards Traffic Tip Line, 414-944-5111. With rapid traffic on News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm John Wyatt.
A lot of banks like to talk about what their technology can do. Mobile, treasury management, international FX, ACH. Every commercial bank in Wisconsin can do that. What they don't talk about is who does it for you. Town Bank has all the same technology and services as the big banks, but Wisconsin's Bank for Business also has Jay, Kevin, Sarah, Jeff, and dozens of other Wisconsin bankers focused on serving you and your business. Your business doesn't just need another piece of technology that you can get from any bank. You need a partner focused on making all this technology work for you. Your business needs the bankers at Town Bank. Bankers focused on building complete financial solutions that fit your business, not their technology. Call CEO Jay Mack at 262-369-8800 and build your solution with Town Bank, a Wintrust community bank. Wisconsin's Bank for Business. Visit townbank.us. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Ken Kramer here with Building Advantage. Have you ever thought about a career in construction? Are you a dedicated and committed person who likes to work with their hands? If so, then our apprenticeship programs may be just what you're looking for. To learn more about these programs, visit buildingadvantage.org. Building Advantage, a higher standard of excellence.
Do you want to buy a new computer but you're not sure about Windows 8? Milwaukee PC still sells new computers with Windows 7. They can customize any desktop with Windows 7 Home or Pro, or offer a selection of Windows 7 notebooks. Visit one of their 23 locations throughout Wisconsin soon before Windows 7 disappears for good. MilwaukeePC.com.
Have an inversion table? Did you get it to help with back pain? I'm Dr. Jay Davidson, Max Health Chiropractic. Tune into Max Health Radio to find out the reason why I've never bought an inversion table on News Talk 1130 WISN this Sunday at 11 a.m. right after church.
Names that you know and trust when it comes to recycling. West Allis Salvage, the Waukesha Recycling Company, and A to Z Recycling are coming together under a brand new name. It's Allied Resource Recovery. Still family owned and operated after 75 years of serving all of your recycling needs. Allied Resource Recovery leads the way when it comes to green initiatives, sustainability, and zero waste goals. Find out more by visiting their website, AlliedResourceRecovery.com. It's the new name for old and trusted friends. AlliedResourceRecovery.com.
Call Color Wheel Painting for a fresh new feel and more productive employees this holiday season. And call Color Wheel for a brand new home in time for the holidays. We save you time and money. Amazing and turnkey is Color Wheel Painting. 414-708-6324.
When golfers look under a tree, they're usually looking for a lost ball. This holiday season, they'll be thrilled to find a Milwaukee County Parks golf gift card instead. They're good at 15 county courses, shipped at no cost. And if you buy $100 worth, you get a bonus $20 free. Go to countyparks.com. That's countyparks.com.
From 20th Century Fox, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is coming only to theaters. Walter was a dreamer, but on December 25th, he'll stop dreaming and start living.
Life is about courage and going into the unknown.
Critics are raving. Walter Mitty is the feel-good comedy for the dreamer in all of us.
Hey man, where are you now?
I can't really talk right now. I'm on my way to a volcano.
What the?
The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. Rated PG. Parental guidance suggested. December 25th, only in theaters. Where opinion and passion meet. This is News Talk 1130 WISN.
Still very much in love. We just thought you ought to know.
News Talk 1130 WISN. Mark Belling, late afternoon show. We've got the football picking contest coming up next. And we will be looking for a new audience contestant. Also, coming up in the next hour, a huge topic, an aspect of Obamacare that I think almost no one was aware of. How many people are going to end up losing their family homes after they die because of a change in Obamacare. It's an incredible story. It's been developing across the country today. I'm going to get into that in the next hour as well. Right now, the Brewers have announced that in addition to this Walk of Fame that they have, the Milwaukee Brewer, Milwaukee Brave Walk of Fame, that's the one that I now vote in every year, they're coming up with a separate honor to include people who wouldn't make the Walk of Fame. They call it the Wall of Honor. So the Wall of Honor is the one that we're going to put in anybody who is pretty good. The Walk of Fame is for those who achieved greatness. What do you think? Good idea, or is it stupid? I think it's a good idea. Why not honor the people who had good seasons? They're just, all it is a little thing, a little plaque with each of their names on it and so on. The Walk of Fame is still the Walk of Fame is like a big display. It's a thing. And this, they got all the other stuff in the ballpark. They got the delis and they got all the bathrooms. Why can't they put up a thing honoring the great players, the good players who played for the Brewers? I have a little quibble with the criteria, but they say that they're these: 2,000 or more plate appearances, 1,000 or more innings pitched, 250 appearances as a pitcher, winner of a major award, MVP, Cy Young, Rookie of the Year, Fireman of the Year, manager of a pennant-winning team, and then anybody who's already in with a statue. In other words, if you're already in the Walk of Fame or a statue out front, then you get on the Wall of Honor. So they have a lot more people on this Wall of Honor that'll be in the Walk of Fame. Here's the people that they put in the initial class of the Wall of Honor: Hank Aaron, Jerry Augustine, Sal Bando, Chris Bosio, Johnny Briggs, Jeremy Burnitz, Mike Caldwell, Bill Castro, Jeff Cirillo, Jim Colburn, Cecil Cooper, Craig Counsell, Chuck Krim, Rob Deere, Cal Eldred, Mike Fetters. Remember him? He was hilarious. Raleigh Fingers, Jim Gatner, Moose Haas, Bill Hall, Darrell Hamilton, Teddy Higuera, John Jaha, Jeff Jenkins, Harvey Keene, Sixto Liscano, Pat Listash, Mark Loretta, Davey May, Bob McClure, Paul Molitor, Don Money, Charlie Moore, Jamie Navarro, Dave Nielsen, Ben Ogilvie, Dan Plesac, Daryl Porter, Ken Sanders. If you haven't figured out that this is in alphabetical order yet, I can't help you. George Scott, Kevin Seitzer, Bud Selig, Richie Sexton, Ben Sheets, Ted Simmons, Jim Slayton, BJ Surhoff, Don Sutton, Gorman Thomas, Bill Travers, Bob Euchre, Jose Valentin, Greg Vaughn, Fernando Vina, Pete Vukovich, Bill Wegman, Bob Wickman, and Robin Yount. In addition to that, there are 7 other players who are currently active who fit the criteria. They will not be enshrined, however, until they retire. Those would be John Axford, Ryan Braun, Prince Fielder, Giovanni Gallardo, J.J. Hardy, Corey Hart, and Ricky Weeks. I've got one little quibble with this. I think they have pretty good criteria. 2,000 or more plate appearances, 1,000 or more innings pitched, 250 appearances as a pitcher, winner of a major award, manager of a pennant-winning team, and then anybody already in the Miller Park Plaza or anybody in the Baseball Hall of Fame. What they miss is a guy who may have had a really great season or two, but not enough to get to the number of plate appearances necessary, and so on. They sort of cover that by saying if you won a major award. So Kenny Sanders gets in because he was the Fireman of the Year. I think he won the Fireman of the Year in the Brewers' inaugural season. But there's a name that's just absent from this list who ought to be there, and the reason he's absent is he was here for only 1.5 seasons, but the first season that he was here, he had a phenomenal, almost MVP-like year, and that's Tommy Harper. Tommy Harper hit .296 and hit 31 home runs in the first season of the Milwaukee Brewers' existence. He was really our first hero, and I think he still holds the record for most leadoff homers by any member of the Brewers. He had 31 home runs, and he was the leadoff man virtually I think all of those homers, other than maybe 1 or 2, was hit as a leadoff man. The same year, I think he stole maybe 50 or 60 bases that year. He had an astonishing amount of power, incredible base stealing. Did it in the first year, but he was gone, a half season after that, so he doesn't get it off the plate appearances. I think they have good criteria, but I think Tommy Harper deserves to be included in there. They haven't announced yet the results of the vote for the big thing, the Wall of Fame that I vote in. I am pessimistic that the people who deserve to get put in will be put in. And I think one of the reasons they established this separate honor is the goofs who vote for the Walk of Fame never vote for the right people. And we get all sorts of people who deserve to be honored in one way or another. They have to create something to get them in because goofs like these dorks that are on the sports shows don't know anything about the old guys in the past. Well, I think that's true, don't you? So there's a way of getting people up there and honoring them in one way at Miller Park. I'm okay with the entire list. Somebody needs to think about and look back at the stats in that initial inaugural season. And Ken Sanders is in the same situation. He was only here for 2 or 3 years, stayed involved with the Brewers forever, still lives in Milwaukee. Phenomenal year, spectacular year as a closer in the Brewers, either first or second season. Tommy Harper's stats, that first year of the Brewers, stunning. The combination of power and stolen bases. There ought to be some way to get his name up there. 507 News Talk 1130 WISS.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
45 South.
I bet you don't remember Tommy Harper.
No,
that'd be 43 years ago, the Brewers' first season.
Yeah.
1970, yeah. Look up, as I recall, 296 with 31 homers, and I don't remember this number of stolen bases, but I believe it was well over 50.
Wow.
I mean, but then they traded him, a year later.
Yeah,
so he doesn't, and he didn't win MVP, but it was close to an MVP-like season. They got to figure out some way to wiggle that exception of a guy who may have had a super season, but didn't last long enough, to get that minimum number. Otherwise, I think it's a good thing to do, and we need to honor our sports past and, the Packers do such a great job with their Hall of Fame at Lambeau and all of that. And
right.
I think it's a good thing. I think having the Walk of Fame for the really, really big stars, the elite thing, that's good. And then having a more inclusive thing like this to expand, I think that it's all good. I just want to get Tommy Harper in there one way or another. All right, the traffic.
45 southbound at Capitol Drive, a crash in the median. Delays beginning before that scene from about Hampton all the way down through, I almost said Harper, all the way down through the Zoo interchange. It's 27 minutes to get from Good Hope Road to I-94. 94 westbound backed up from the Marquette to 84th Street. 21 minutes downtown to Moreland Road. 94 eastbound slowing before Moreland Road through the Zoo. And then again from 68th Street to about 35th Street. 19 minutes Moreland to downtown. 43 southbound still moving slowly from Hampton into the Marquette interchange. 21 minutes Brown Deer to downtown. Northbound side not a whole lot better with delays continuing past Keefe Avenue. With rapid traffic on News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm John Wyatt.
This update is brought to you.
Happy holidays from T-Mobile. Let's go. Well, it's Christmas time. Can't you hear? People buy phones this time of year.
If you're gonna put a phone underneath the tree, remember not to get it from AT&T.
You can get a Samsung without the big price. They got holiday tags on every Galaxy device. No annual service contract. You're totally free.
And you'll never pay a single overage fee.
T-Mobile's in the house bringing holiday cheer. Unwrap a Galaxy for a Happy New Year.
See participating stores for details.
Should I consider restoring my furniture? Is it even worth restoring, or should I buy new? Hi, Jay Weber saying call Graybar Furniture. They've been building, restoring, and repairing furniture for decades, so they'll give honest professional answers to your furniture questions. And there's nothing Craig Graybar and his staff can't do when it comes to restoring furniture, even if it's beaten up or wobbly, stripped, marred, peeling, even fire or water damaged. They can make it spectacular again. Graybar will even resize beds and make perfect duplicates of furniture. So you need an extra dining room chair or matching end table. They can do that. Call 414-258-2390 for an in-home estimate, or visit their showroom just a few blocks south of State Fair Park on 84th Street in West Allis. If you wonder whether it's worth doing, it's worth giving Graybar Furniture a call. I have seen before and after examples that blew my mind. Heavily damaged, even splintered pieces restored to like new. And ask about protecting fine antiques, because Graybar also knows what not to touch so that it will keep its value. Call Graybar Furniture at 414-258-2390 or CraigGraybarFurniture.com.
Call Callan. We put the wow in home remodeling.
Paul Cronforst here. When you're in the market for windows or doors, choose Infinity Fiberglass Replacement Windows from Marvin. Installed by Callan, your fiberglass window expert. Beautiful in design and style and remarkably durable, Infinity Fiberglass windows and doors are guaranteed for a lifetime of trouble-free performance. Combined with an Everwood finish that looks and feels like real wood and stains up beautifully, Infinity Replacement Windows and Doors from Marvin outlast and outperform the competition. With Callan, you'll find they communicate well, they listen to your needs, and most of all, they give you respect. Stop in Callan's Muskego or Brookfield showrooms. Call 414-529-5509 for a free consultation, or visit callcallan.com. Open up to something better. Infinity Fiberglass Replacement Windows and Doors from Marvin.
Call Callan. Call Callan. We put the wow in home remodeling.
Have your marketing and sales tied the knot? The two unite at Experience Inbound on January 9th at the Harley-Davidson Museum. At this one-day conference, you'll learn to become inbound marketing and sales focused from experts like Brian Halligan of HubSpot, Frank Belzer, author of Sales Shift, and more. Register at experienceinbound.com.
Bob Dolan here for injury attorneys Pasternak and Zergabel, recognized as two of Wisconsin's best injury attorneys. Pasternak and Zergabel's extraordinary work and results are something I and other clients have known for years. Whether you're the victim of a car accident like I was, or the victim of a dangerous product like asbestos, you need to contact Pasternak and Zergabel. See their website at injurywisconsin.com, injurywisconsin.com, for award-winning personal injury attorneys Pasternak and Zergabel.
Checking out the movies this weekend?
Here's your box office preview.
This week's big release is the long-awaited Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues, which opened on Wednesday. After breaking up, Ron Burgundy and the Channel 4 news crew reunite at a brand new cable news channel to try and duplicate their success in San Diego. Will Ferrell, Christina Applegate, David Koechner, and Paul Rudd star in the sequel to the 2004 classic. For the kids, the computer-animated Walking with Dinosaurs is out this weekend, about 3 dinos who have been friends since childhood. The family adventure stars the voices voices of John Leguizamo, Justin Long, and Skylar Stone. Expanding to wide release is the crime drama American Hustle. A British conman and his girlfriend are recruited by the FBI to infiltrate the glamorous but dangerous world of New Jersey politics and organized crime. Christian Bale, Bradley Cooper, Amy Adams, Jeremy Renner, and Jennifer Lawrence star in the latest from the director of Silver Linings Playbook. Still in theaters are The Hobbit, The Desolation of Smaug, Frozen, The Hunger Games Catching Fire, A Medea Christmas, and Out of the Furnace. Plus, Thor Dark World, Delivery Man, Homefront, and The Best Man Holiday. And that's your weekend box office preview on iHeartRadio.
Listen one time, and you'll know why they call him the Great One. Mark Levin, weeknights at 9 on News Talk 1130 WISN Milwaukee.
Available everywhere on the iHeartRadio app. Download it now.
Good evening, I'm Dan O'Donnell. Governor Walker has decided to sign a bill that makes it more difficult to force schools in Wisconsin to change their race-based nicknames and mascots. The legislature passed that measure. The governor had a deadline of today to sign it, veto it, or let it become law without his signature. He has decided to sign it. Milwaukee police are investigating a murder-suicide in a home on the city's south side. Happened this morning in the 1600 block of South 21st Street. A 26-year-old man shot and killed his 26-year-old live-in girlfriend, then turned the gun on himself. A federal judge has vacated the murder conviction of Mark Jensen. He was convicted in 2008 of poisoning his wife Julie with antifreeze 15 years ago. The judge found that Jensen's constitutional rights were violated because a letter from Julie was admitted into evidence in which Julie wrote a neighbor that if anything was to happen to her, Mark should be considered a suspect. The federal judge ruled today that letter was wrongfully admitted as evidence, and Jensen's constitutional rights were violated because he was unable to cross-examine his deceased wife. From the OverTheTopRoof.com News Center, I'm Dan O'Donnell on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Here's the latest from the Fox 6 Weather Deck.
A wintry mix of rain, freezing rain, and snow develops overnight. We'll see a low dropping to 28. That mix continues through parts of Friday, mostly snow north of Milwaukee, where an inch or so of accumulation is possible. We'll see a high near 30. I'm Fox 6 meteorologist Justin Zolich.
Tonight is the time to enjoy a delectable dinner at Firefly Restaurant, located in the heart of Wauwatosa on Harwood Avenue. Firefly Restaurant provides a lively, contemporary atmosphere and offers warm and comfortable dining rooms, an expansive bar, a romantic fireplace lounge, or private party rooms to enjoy inventive, fresh cuisine and amazing craft cocktails. Happy hour is Monday through Friday, 4:30 to 6:30. Firefly is the perfect location for your holiday events, large or small. Visit firefly-grill.com for more information.
Okay, I've got an amazing Christmas deal. 2 words, Sherry's Berries. These gourmet berries are huge and freshly dipped in dark, white, and milk chocolatey deliciousness. Then they're covered in decadent toppings like chocolate chips and nuts. And get this right now, these mouth-watering gourmet berries start at $19.99. Plus, get double the berries for just $10 more. But you gotta hurry, Christmas is almost here, and this deal expires this Friday. The only way to get this amazing offer is to go to berries.com, click on the microphone in the upper right-hand corner, and enter secret code IHEART.
Hey, Dan Connery here, folks. Make sure you join me every Sunday for solid Common Sense Radio with a little fun thrown in as well, live every Sunday, 2 to 5 p.m. right here on News Talk 1130 WISN.
It's Fox Wheels.
Watch the women driver jokes at GM. A woman will soon be behind the wheel. Longtime GM exec Mary Barra replaces Dan Ackerson.
It's an honor for me to be able to lead this team and to continue the momentum.
Ackerson says about the GM Boys Club label.
I think that perception is quite dated. And look, Mary was not picked because of her gender.
Ackerson says Barra has a clear vision of where she wants to take the company. We like to trick out our vehicles, and sticker price doesn't seem to matter when choosing car options. The automakers say transaction prices have jumped. John Felice with an example at Ford.
Importantly, we're seeing average transaction prices up more than $6,300 on the new MKZ, and we continue to attract new customers to the brand.
A fully loaded MKZ will run close to $50,000. That song about gasoline came out in 1913 when the Gulf Refining Company opened the country's first gas station in Pittsburgh 100 years ago this month. With Fox Wheels, I'm Jennifer Kuiper, Fox News Radio.
Markets end mixed following yesterday's rally sparked by the Fed stimulus decision. In corporate news, shares of Target were down over 2%. The retailer said 40 million people who shopped in their stores the 3 weeks after Thanksgiving could have had their credit and debit data stolen. In stocks of local interest, Kohl's was off 14 cents. Johnson Controls lost $1.18. A.O. Smith was down $1.11, while Harley-Davidson gained 51 cents, and AT&T was up 7 cents to $34.45 a share. Crude oil dropped 83 cents to $98.63 a barrel, and gold fell $43 to $11.91 an ounce. And finally, losers beat winners nearly 3-2 on both the New York Stock Exchange and on the NASDAQ. On the day, the Dow added 11 to 16,179. The S&P 500 was down 1 to 1810, and the NASDAQ was off 12 to 4058. From the Kowal Investment Group for News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm certified financial planner professional Aaron Kowal.
Securities offered through Raymond James Financial Services, member FINRA and SIPC. Advisory services offered through RJFS and Kowal Investment Group, an independent firm. Call 262-522-4040.
Hi, victory is yours at McDonald's with Xbox. Buy any premium McWrap, quarter pounder, or medium fries, and you have a chance to win one of thousands of Xbox One entertainment systems. With millions of prizes, it's easy to come in a customer and leave a legend. There's something for everyone to win at McDonald's. No purchase necessary. Limit 5 price claims per person per day. Game ends 12/23 or while supplies last. See official rules at participating McDonald's and OneHuntHoliday.com. Void where prohibited.
Hey, if you're a smoker, listen up. I was for years. I loved smoking, and it would have been a lot easier for me if Finn Electronic Cigarettes had been around. Think about this. No smoky smell on your clothes, in your house or car. Nobody complaining, get that secondhand smoke away from me. Come on, you can smoke wherever you want. Because remember, with Finn Electronic Cigarettes, you're not breaking the rules, you're rewriting them. Look for Finn Electronic Cigarettes, F-I-N, the red Finn. Now available at Walmart.
Right now. Not tomorrow, right now. Now. And one of you gets to play. That's because our audience contestant last week lost. How does this work? You got to pick a football game to be played anytime between, I guess it would be Saturday. Saturday is the first of the Division I college bowl games. All the way through Thursday of next week. That includes all of this weekend's NFL games. And there are a bunch of college bowl games, as I said, Saturday and then through the Christmas week, all the way through Thursday of next week. Any of those games are fair game to choose from. You've got to pick the game correctly against the point spread. We're going to take caller number 35 in just a moment here to play along with us this week. Caller number 35. Normally, our contest allows the audience contestant a chance to correctly pick games for 8 weeks in a row and win $50,000. Well, there's only 6 weeks left in our contest, 2 weeks and then 4 weekends of NFL playoff action. So no chance for anybody to get to $50,000, but you probably wouldn't get there anyway. And secondly, we got great prizes for you anyway. You're still going to be able to win a $100 dining certificate at an outstanding restaurant, which I'll tell you about in a moment. So you're playing for dining certificates only and the glory of going on the radio and picking a game correctly. Something that I am having more trouble with this year than in any year in the history of the contest. I am just floundering here. So you don't know who's playing who. I can help you out with that and give you a little bit of assistance. If you know something about football and who's playing who and how point spreads work, obviously you might have a leg up on everybody else. So if you want to play along with us, we're going to take caller number 35 right now at our regular call-in lines. Call 414-799-1130 or the Accunet Mortgage toll-free line, 1-800-838-9476. We'll take caller number 35. Our contest is sponsored by Town Bank, Wisconsin's bank for business. Time to recap everybody's picks from last. You know, I wasn't even here last week. I phoned in my pick. I should have just boycotted the show and took a full day of vacation rather than actually work for the 15 minutes of our contest. Jerry Bott was on the show, and he asked me how confident I was in my pick, and I said 0. I was guessing, and then Mike told me why I was wrong, and I realized, I thought the Jacksonville Jaguars had turned their season around a little bit. They were a home underdog against the Buffalo Bills. They were getting 2.5 points. They lost by 7. Another loser for me. Mike Merlett, American sports analyst in Madison, he made the mistake of going against Paul, who is in some sort of zone that he's in. He's living in a world that he's never been in before. He's now 10-3 with 2 ties on the year. Paul said the 49ers would beat the Buccaneers by more than 5. Mike said they wouldn't. Paul was right. Paul's leading this thing at 10-3-2. Mike's still over 500, though, at 8-7. Our audience contested. He had a pick even worse than mine. He said the Eagles would beat the Vikings by 6 or more. As you know, the Vikings destroyed Philadelphia, beating them 48-30. So not only the Eagles not win by 6 or more, they actually got blown out by 18 points. So that's why we're looking for a new audience contestant right now, and we've got one. I'll talk to him in just a second. I'll let Paul get his information up, and we'll talk right now to Mike Merlett of American Sports Analyst in Madison. This is kind of humiliating what Paul's doing to us here, Mike. You know,
it is. My new system was to go opposite of Paul because I figure he has to come back.
Regression to the mean. That's what I've expected was going to happen.
And it didn't work, so I can't do that anymore.
I mean, the next thing, if he's right next week, you're going to have to hire him and put him on the staff there and have him come up with the picks. The instant, though, that somebody actually starts believing that he knows something is when this is all going to end. But I think Paul has now mathematically guaranteed that he won't do what he does every year, which is finish under 500. You can lose the remaining 6 weeks, Paul. You'd still be 10-9-2, and you'd still be... Something tells me you're going to end up at 10-9-2 because I just can't. But anyway, that was then. This is now. It's time at the beginning of the bowl season and the second to last week in the NFL. Anything special at ASA?
Yeah, we're going to have a big NFL play this weekend. Last week we won our NFL total of the year pretty easy. Arizona, Tennessee over 42.
Oh, that was a big 71 points. Yeah, that's a great pick. So that was your total of the year, and you whomped that one in. Good.
Good chance we'll have our side of the year this weekend in the NFL. There's one spot that we really, really like in the NFL. Won't be a total; it'll be a side this weekend.
And when we say side, that means just pick a team against the point spread.
Correct.
So they're going to have probably a big play, and I'm guessing you got bowl packages and all that other stuff. So if you're interested in that, asawins.com, or you can call ASA at 1-888-272-1098. Town Bank, Wisconsin's Bank for Business, is the sponsor of our contest. Let's go now to our audience contestant. Where's he from, Paul? Oh, there it is. Pat Phelps of St. Francis. Pat was caller number 35, and he gets to play along with us this week. First of all, Paul, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to tell you what you're going to win if you get this. Last week when I wasn't here, Jerry Bott tried very hard to give our audience contestant a $100 dining certificate at Ward's House of Prime in downtown Milwaukee. We couldn't give it away. This thing's been sitting around so long it's got mold on it. I'm going to give it away this week. So if you win, you're going to go down to Ward's, which is it's steak, prime rib, and a lot of other good stuff. Bar menu, fine dining menu. Great place downtown Milwaukee. So that's what we're going to send you if you're right on this.
Sounds excellent.
All right, Pat, you a big football fan or not?
Not quite as much as I used to be, and I'm not up on it nearly as much.
Don't worry, we'll work it. Hey, I'm up on it a lot, and I couldn't right now pick my nose. So we're going to put you on hold to give you a chance to settle you for just a second here, and we'll get back to him for a pick. So he's not followed and it's closely filed. You know, you still have a 50-50 chance, which I'm kind of proving that a 50-50 chance doesn't mean that you can't be rotten anyway. What's the matter with me this year? I don't know. I do know this. I have extreme, Jerry asked me last week. You weren't here last week either. We had nobody here. I mean, Jerry was here and Mike was here, and we had an audience contestant. Jerry asked me last week what confidence I had in my pick on a scale of 0 to 100, and I said 0. If you asked me about this week, I'd say 97. And the other reason it's not 100 is I've been so terrible this year. I've got a pick that, so if I'm wrong, I'm just wrong. But I got a game I really like that we'll give you in a second. All right, we start with Paul, who's got this stunning record of 10-3-2. It's something that's just hard to process. It is. It's like the liberals who said that the surge wasn't going to work in Iraq. There it worked, and they couldn't process it. All right, now give me the game or games that you're interested in the line on, Paul. New England and Baltimore. That's a game that has tremendous playoff implications for the Baltimore Ravens. They put themselves back in the playoff hunt by beating Detroit last week. They're at home to New England. It's interesting. Baltimore is actually favored in that game by 2.5 points over New England. Paul's going to take New England. I guess You always these games you're winning on. They're always ones I don't feel strongly about. I'm inclined to kind of think you're right. We got to ask Mike if New England, I believe, does need to win one more game to clinch that division. What did you say? Paul says the Colts are the only team that wrapped up the division in the NFL. No, they aren't. They're not even in first place in that division. Cincinnati's in first place in that division. Oh, this is good. He's screwed up on something. He's screwed up on something. This is excellent stuff. I don't know why I'm rooting against you other than that I would be okay with your great season if I wasn't sucking so badly this year. So your logic is already messed up. Mike says, well, I know that Baltimore doesn't have its division wrapped up. They're not even in first place. So it can't obviously. I know Mike will know. You believe this, Mike. We're getting well, you're not getting your butt kicked. I'm getting my butt kicked, and he's beating you, and he doesn't even know what's going on over there. He said one team has its division wrapped up in the NFL. Is that Denver?
Indianapolis. Indianapolis has the AFC South.
He's got Indianapolis and Baltimore mixed up. Oh, you said the Colts, but New England's playing the Ravens, Paul. Okay, you were right. He said they're the only team with the division wrapped up. But why would you state that as your reason to make a pick in the Baltimore-New England game? Oh, I see. That's why you got confused me when you said the Colts, who used to be in Baltimore. Oh, I thought you were talking about Baltimore because I didn't understand why you would pick Baltimore based on Indianapolis having, okay. Go back to, so give me your other reason then as to why you like Baltimore. Why you like New England. What is your reason? They're better than Baltimore. Okay, fine. And they have incentive to win. Well, everybody has incentive to win. I think those are a bunch of cockamamie reasons. But what do you think about his pick now that we have it figured out, Mike?
I would lean toward New England. I would lean toward his side. I don't disagree. It's a big game for Baltimore. If they win, they need to win and have Miami lose and San Diego lose to clinch a playoff spot. So they're battling. But New England doesn't have their division wrapped up yet. They need to win or have Miami lose. So it's big for both games. I like taking New England off a loss. Baltimore's coming off a Monday night road win. Yeah, I'd probably side with New England getting points in that game.
Well, and I was in Miami this weekend, and when New England played Miami down there, the Patriots, Brady had another drive. He got them down to the 15, and they had a couple of chances to hit passes in the end zone, and New England got away with it. Miami got away with a pass interference there. I just think that New England has got such poor receivers right now. They only have Amendola left with the tight ends all being gone, and somehow they're able to hold it together. Baltimore, on the other hand, what a weird game they're coming off of by beating Detroit without. If you would have told me you could beat the Detroit Lions without scoring a touchdown, that would just seem impossible because Detroit puts up 40 points every week. You see why I'm having a bad season with these NFL picks, because a lot of stuff is just surprising me. So you're saying you lean with Paul and taking the road underdog New England.
Yeah, I'd agree with New England. I think Baltimore's a little overrated, and I think, I'm not so sure New England shouldn't be favored in that game. So I'd take New England, I think.
Okay, we'll put Mike on hold, and now we're going to talk to our audience contestant, Pat Phelps. Pat, the way this works is you can pick any football game to be played this weekend in the NFL or any of the Division I college bowl games. Now, you can and you need to ask me the line, the point spread first, and then I'll tell you what it is. Is there a game or games you want to hear the spread on?
There are three of them.
All right.
All within the division. Let's start with Chicago.
The Chicago Bears and the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
Philadelphia at home is favored by 3 over Chicago.
They're favored. Eagles are favored by 3.
Yes, they're favored by 3 at home.
-3 at home.
Yes, okay. Philadelphia is the other. You said the North Division.
Yep.
That would
Detroit.
be met. Detroit. The Detroit Lions play at home against the Giants. The Lions are favored by 9. And the other game in our division would be the Minnesota Vikings and the Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals at home are favored by 7.5. There is no line available on the Packer game because of the remaining question about Rodgers' status.
I see. That was my third one that I wanted the line on, but
there is no line of the Packer game.
I didn't write
Can't be
down
taken.
Minnesota when I wasn't prepared for that.
All right, Minnesota. Yeah, so Minnesota is a 7.5-point underdog at Cincinnati.
At Cincy.
What do you think? You got to take something. I know all about this. You got to take something every week, Pat.
Are they going to play Cutler in Chicago?
Yeah, Cutler returned last week, and he is scheduled to start this week.
All right. Let me go with...
Quickly.
I'm going to go with Detroit.
All right, you need the Lions to beat the Giants by 10 or more. Right. I'm not going to ask you for a reason because I had to pull enough teeth just to get the pick out of you. But if you're right, you're going to be back with us. You will actually... won't be back with us next week because we're going to have an internet-only contest next week. You would actually be back in 2 weeks, and I'm going to put you on hold so, Paul, you can explain to Pat when we'll be calling him again, which next week we're going to have an internet-only contest with myself, Paul, and Mike. Those picks will be put up on Friday of next week. I will be hosting Rush next Friday, so we won't have a live show or the chance to do our football contest then. Okay, Mike, I'm running long here. Any quick thought on his pick of the Lions over Detroit?
Yeah, I just don't. I don't have an opinion on that. The Giants got shut out last week at home by the Seahawks. Going on the road, they have nothing to play for. But I just cannot trust Detroit. You just can't trust that team.
It's just an incredible thing with them. I mean, with everything to play for, they fouled up again. It's as badly coached a team as you can find in the NFL north of Dallas. I mean, it's just an astonishing thing. I look at them. They should win our division, and right now they need either the Packers or Bears to lose this week, or they can't win. If both Green Bay and Chicago win their game, Detroit can't win because obviously either Green Bay or Chicago has to win next week.
And the way it's shaped out, Detroit was handed the division on a platter almost. They've lost 4 of their last 5 games. Their only win in their last 5 was against Green Bay. They should have won the division. They should have had the division wrapped up already with Chicago and Green Bay with quarterback issues, but they're just not trustworthy. So I don't like that. I don't like either side of that game. I really don't.
Okay, time to get a pick now from Mike. We got the start of the college bowl season is tomorrow, and we've got the full slate of NFL games. You have your NFL game of the year probably this weekend. I'm sure that's not going to be the pick we get, but we'll get something. College or pros?
I'm going to go college. I'm going to go back to college.
All right.
Saturday, the New Mexico Bowl, Colorado State, Washington State.
That's actually the very first of the bowl games. Although we're not allowed to pick it, there's actually a point spread in tomorrow night's Division III championship game in which Mount Union and Whitewater play for what seems like the 94th year in a row. Yeah. They actually didn't play last year because Whitewater didn't even win the conference, but Whitewater's favored by 6 for those interested over Mount Union. But of the regular bowls, the Division I bowls, Colorado State and Washington State's the first one, and that's Saturday afternoon in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Washington State is favored by 4 on the neutral field.
What's the total on that game?
66.
I'm going to go over in that game.
Over the total of 66. A shootout to start the bowl season. Colorado State and Washington State. Give us some reasons.
Well, a lot of times early in the bowl season, you get a lot of these teams don't even deserve to be in bowl. So A lot of times you get 2 bad defenses going against each other, and that's what we've got here. Washington State ranks 104th in total defense. Colorado State is 76th. Even more specific to each unit, I like the way Washington State's a really good passing team. They're 5th in the nation in passing. They average 58 pass attempts per game.
Yeah, they've got Mike Leach, who people remember from, was he A&M or Texas Tech? Texas Tech.
He was Texas Tech, yeah.
Where they had that huge high power. He was one of the first to really invent that spray-type offense that's so in vogue now. In fact, I believe, didn't he have the guy the Packers finally cut this year, the backup for 3 years, Harrell. Harrell set all sorts of records down there under Leach. Leach got fired because he hacked off people down there. He's in Washington State and trying to put that same offense back together. And you're right, they're putting up a lot of yards in the air.
They do. They average more pass attempts than any team in the country and the least rush attempts of any team in the country. But they're going against Colorado State, who finished 110th in pass defense. And Colorado State didn't even play a good schedule against good passing teams. In fact, they played 4 of their teams they played against were 99th or worse in pass offense, including 3 teams that ran the option, and they still finished 110th against the pass. On the other side of the ball, Colorado State scored a pile of points this year. They're more balanced on offense. They run the ball very well, 200 yards per game. Washington State gives up 200 yards per game. I think this one's going way over the total. I think it's in Albuquerque. It's supposed to be good weather, 45 or so, and light winds. I think this will be one of those early shootouts right off the bat.
Well, you make a good case there. That's an interesting fact. I'm also going to go to a college ball game, and if I lose this, I have a real strong opinion on a game. It's almost sacrilegious to take a game on this day, but I like the game on Christmas Eve out in Hawaii between Oregon State and Boise State. Oregon State is favored by 3, and I'm going to take Oregon State. Boise State's been a power for years and years and years, but they dropped off somewhat this year. They are only an above-average team in a second-tier conference, the Mountain West Conference. But my key here is their brilliant coach, Chris Peterson. He's retiring. He's taken the job as the head coach at the University of Washington. It's a guy who had bad career management. He turned down USC 2 years ago. He's not the hot commodity so much anymore, and he's now going to Washington. I like to go against in bowls teams whose head coach has either left or is leaving. I think it really affects the preparation. The assistant coaches are worried about their future. In fact, Boise's already named a new head coach for next year, Byron Harsin. I think it's a big distractant for the players. For Boise State, a lot of these guys run better teams in the past. I think that they lack focus. Oregon State, on the other hand, I don't know if Mike has any numbers on this, but teams that go into the bowls off of several losses in the row at the end of a season, I think they're always great plays because you get a good line on them because they ended so cold. Well, Oregon State ended cold because they played in the Pac-10, which is the second strongest conference in college football this year. They put up a lot of points, and their head coach, Riley, has an outstanding record over the years in the bowls. I'm laying only 3 points. It's the neutral field in Hawaii. I think Oregon State, ending with several losses in the year, they're going to be more focused. They're going to want to win. And I really think Boise's preparation is going to be screwed up because their coach, who's a brilliant innovator, has left them, and you've got the operation being run by assistants, some of whom don't know if they're going to Washington along with Peterson or staying in Boise or neither. I think it's a good spot for Oregon State, which has a great offense, to run up the score against a team that I think is going to be disoriented. I like my pick a lot. I bet you don't, huh, Mike?
Yeah, no, I definitely like your side. I look at the same situation. Yeah, I like to look for coaches that are leaving. A lot of times it screws up the chemistry of the team. The players are, if they're seniors, they're not too worried about it at this point. If they're juniors, sophomores, they're not sure. They're not really interested in the bowl game a lot of times. Plus, I like looking at strength of schedule in this situation. Oregon State has played the 12th toughest schedule.
Yeah, out of the Pac-10. Think of that league. Yeah. Think what they had to run through this year. I mean, they almost beat Oregon in the final game of the year, and I think Oregon would beat Boise State by 35 points. So.
Yeah, they lost. Yeah, they're coming in. I agree with you. They're coming in on 5 straight losses. They lost last year's bowl game to Texas by 4 points, so they've got some motivation to play in this game. But their losses, like you said, were against Stanford, USC, Arizona State, Washington, and Oregon to end the season. So a very tough schedule. On the flip side, Boise played the 95th toughest schedule. Their coach is leaving. It seems like a small number to me. I definitely like Oregon State.
Yeah, I mean, Boise State was in the Mountain West, which was really weak this year. I mean, Fresno almost ran the table, and that was only an average football team with a bad defense. The Mountain West was really down. Boise was only an okay team in that, and Oregon State struggled toward the end in a really, really stiff conference. So I think I'm onto something. And if I'm not right about this, I'm never going to be right. I'm never going to be right again because I really think I have something here. Anyway, that's Mike Burlett. We won't talk to you next week, but sometime Friday afternoon, we're going to have a pick from Paul, Mike, and myself that we'll post on Belling.com. And for your purposes, Mike, that can be any game through January 2nd. Since our next on-air contest will be January 3rd, 2 weeks from tomorrow. So we'll talk to you then. Thanks, Mike.
Okay,
that's Mike Burlett, American Sports Analyst, 1-888-272. Oh, brain locking here. What's their phone number? Paul, 1-888-272. No, the phone number, you moron. That's not the. I can tell when he's starting his Christmas vacation. I asked Paul for the phone number. It's 1-888-272, and he says ASA wins. That's their website. I didn't ask for the website. I asked for the... you and I aren't communicating well here at all. I mean, it's a good thing we don't have a podcast to listen to that back and forth between Indianapolis, and Baltimore that you and I were talking. That's it. 888-272-1098. I've been reading that number for 15 years, and now I'm losing it right here on the show. Ward's House of Prime is where we're going to send our audience contestant. Town Bank, Wisconsin's Bank for Business, is the sponsor of the contest. And recap on the picks. Paul says, take New England to either beat Baltimore or lose by 2 or less. Our audience contestant, Pat, says Detroit will beat the Giants by 10 or more. Paul, by the way, you've written 9.5 down here. It's actually 9, meaning if it's 9, Pat would come back with a tie if that's how much Detroit wins by. Mike says Colorado and Washington State, I think I said tomorrow, that's Saturday, that bowl game, will score more than 66 points, and I'll say Oregon State beats Boise State by more than 3 points. A really big story is looming about an impact of Obamacare that very few people have thought about. You literally could lose, following your death, your home and your assets. This story was first reported by the Fiscal Times, and a lot of people are now on it. And I want to share it with you when we come back next. Don't miss this next segment. 544 News Talk 1130 WISN.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
45 southbound, you're backed up from Capitol to the Zoo. 26 minutes, Good Hope Road to I-94. 94 westbound, tight from 25th Street to 68th Street. And then again on the brakes as you get past the Zoo interchange out to about Sunny Slope Road. Going to take you 21 minutes downtown out to Moreland Road. Eastbound slow from Sunny Slope back through the Zoo. 43 southbound, getting better, but still finding delays between Capitol and the Marquette. 15 Brown Deer to downtown. With rapid traffic on News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm John Watt.
Does your bank help you get paid? Introducing iBusiness Credit Manager from Town Bank. iBusiness Credit Manager allows you to check the credit of businesses you work with, monitor their health, and collect on aging receivables. It's that simple. Call or visit your local Town Bank and ask about getting paid. iBusiness Credit Manager from Town Bank, a Wintrust community bank. Wisconsin's Bank for Business. Learn more at townbank.us/getpaid. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
At Associated Bank, your company is not just a number in a portfolio. Expert relationship managers listen, understand your goals, and respond directly and creatively. We provide thought leadership for business strategies and connect people with the resources they need. Our clients agree.
We want a relationship bank. They've bent over backward for our business.
Associated makes it easy. It's about trust.
You have specific financial objectives for your company. At Associated, we have smart, practical commercial banking solutions.
I've met senior management, and they're helping me develop relationships with their top team members.
They've been our partner for nearly 10 years. They are a good fit for our business.
Find out what a good fit can do for your company. Associated Bank, a good fit. AssociatedBank.com. Member FDIC, Equal Opportunity Lender.
Accunet Mortgage is an equal housing lender, NMLS ID 255368. This is Brian Wickert with important information for anyone on the fence regarding locking in a rate for the most common and sought-after mortgages in America. The 30-year, 20-year, and 15-year fixed-rate loans that are guaranteed by Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. Here's the scoop. Fannie and Freddie's regulator announced just last week that starting with loan applications in early January, they'll jack up the fee they charge to guarantee loans, which gets passed directly through to you in either a higher rate or higher closing costs. That makes two government entities now looking to make mortgage rates higher in the very near future, the Federal Reserve and now the Federal Housing Finance Agency. Dang. Rarely do we know for certain that rates are going up, but this is one of those times. So today's the day, and now's the time to get over to Accunet.com and click on the blue button, or tap this number into your cell phone, 262-781-1100. 262-781-1100. That's 781-1100. Or go to ACCUNET.com.
Happy holidays from T-Mobile. Let's go. Well, it's Christmas time. Can't you hear? People buy phones this time of year. If you're gonna put a phone underneath the tree. Remember not to get it from AT&T. You can get a Samsung without the big price. They got holiday tags on every Galaxy device. No annual service contract, totally free. And you'll never pay a single overage fee. T-Mobile's in the house bringing holiday cheers. A rapper Galaxy for a happy new year.
See participating stores for details.
When you have a birthday, sometimes you get gifts that are in questionable taste. A stripper, a walker, or a membership in AARP. But we here at WISN have good taste, so we want to give you something that tastes good on your birthday. A free entree worth up to $12 at the Boneyard Pub and Grill. You'll get a certificate, and it's good at both Boneyard locations, Sussex and Mukwonago. To get yours, just go to newstalk1130.com and enter the keyword birthday and sign up. Best birthday wishes from WISN.
Gimmick Jewelers focus on facets, packaging, love, really anything other than GIA certified diamonds. Buy Gimmick free at Powers downtown and give the gift of fine diamonds knowing you are giving quality and real value. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. 414 Diamond.
A quiz so challenging, even Mensa members quake with uncertainty. The 2013 edition of the Mark Belling Year-End Current Events Quiz starts at 3 on Friday, January 3rd. The winner gets an incredible prize package featuring a FunJet Vacations getaway for 2 to Jamaica with all-inclusive accommodations at Riu Palace, Jamaica, courtesy of Milwaukee's own FunJet Vacations. Plus, the package has laptops from iNet and a $1,500 certificate from Master Z's. Fire up the gray matter and play the Mark Belling Year-End Current Events Quiz, January 3rd on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Milwaukee's most powerful radio show, The Mark Belling Late Afternoon Show. There's only one Mark Belling on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Gone away, here's the bluebird, here to stay, here's a new bird.
News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling Late Afternoon Show. We have a freezing rain advisory for all of southeastern Wisconsin starting in a few minutes at 6 o'clock tonight, except the lakeshore counties. Milwaukee, Racine, and Kenosha, that advisory starts there at midnight. For tonight, a mix of rain, freezing rain, and light snow. Little or no accumulation, however, low 28. Freezing rain and snow continuing before 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. About a half to 2 inches north of Milwaukee, less than that to the south of Milwaukee. High tomorrow, 30. Friday night, mostly cloudy, low 25. Saturday, mainly cloudy, chance of flurries during the day. Chance of rain, freezing rain, and snow after 9 p.m. And now the forecast for Sunday, which we're going to have to follow very closely. Cloudy and blustery with a chance of snow, possibly heavy snow for Sunday. High of 30. That following that storm track is going to be a tricky thing to do because we're right on the edge of it. Potential for heavy snow, potential for not much at all right now. And then Monday, partly sunny and cold, 16. If you're looking ahead to Christmas Eve, what they have so far on that, partly sunny with an afternoon high of 24 degrees. This is going to become a big story when people become aware of the impact of it. Medicaid is health care for poor people. Do not confuse Medicaid with Medicare. Medicare is for the elderly. Medicaid. In Wisconsin, we call our Medicaid program Badger Care. States administer Medicaid, and they get a big chunk of federal money to run it. One of the elements of Obamacare is to expand the eligibility for Medicaid. In other words, more people will be able to get Medicaid starting January 1st than currently, particularly if the states accept the expanded money from the federal government. We in Wisconsin did not. In most states, though, this does mean that more people will now be eligible for free health care, Medicaid. For them, that seems like a good thing. It may not be for reasons I'm about to explain. The Seattle Times ran a story last weekend that is slowly trickling around the country. The Fiscal Times, which is an online site, wrote a major piece about it today. Under Medicaid law, and it differs from state to state because remember, the states run Medicaid. If you ring up certain medical expenses while you're on Medicaid, after you die, these states can attempt to recover some of those expenses by going after your estate. As properly, they should. If you have assets to pay for health care, you ought to have to pay for it. In most states, they only retrieve money for a specific type of care, usually people who need long-term in-home or in-home care. In other words, let's suppose you're someone who is on Medicaid, who requires long-term care. You have a long-term disability, you can't get around, and you need long-term care either in a facility or in your own home. In most states, after that person dies, if there is money in their estate, that estate can be attached to pay for some of that care. Now, currently, it isn't that big of an issue. Why? Because people who are on Medicaid are poor, and that means they usually don't have an estate. People who have ultra low income, they're just getting by paying their bills. When they die, it's not like they're sitting there with $250,000 that you can go after. However, because Obamacare raises the income eligibility level for Medicaid, you're going to see going into Medicaid a fair number of people, lower middle class, who actually have some assets that can be attached. Now, in Wisconsin, the only money that the state attempts to recover for Medicaid is for long-term in-home type care. This is a tiny minority of Medicaid patients. In other states, though, they go after all sorts of long-term care and other expenses as well. With Medicaid being expanded, you're now going to be looking at a fair number of people who actually are going to have an estate, like, for example, their home after they die. With Obamacare putting so many new people with higher incomes into Medicaid, these people may find that after they die, the government is now going to go after their estates to reimburse the money that they were paid under Medicaid. For this reason, and this is why the story started in Seattle, there's a couple in Seattle, Washington that are not in love. They're acquaintances. They date. They've just gotten married. The reason they got married is so that their joint income is high enough that they can't get Medicaid. They say they'd rather buy insurance under the Obamacare exchanges than go into Medicaid because they're afraid of losing their family homes after they die. They have children and so on. They don't want their estates attached. There's an interesting piece on all of this on the fiscaltimes.com. The number of people now being expanded and put into Medicaid. There are consequences to being put into Medicaid. It's one of the many unintended consequences of a stupid law that was never thought through. In the past, it hasn't been that much of an issue. People on Medicaid worried about their estates being attached because usually people on Medicaid didn't have an estate because they're poor people. With the income level being raised for Medicaid under Obamacare in many states, but not ours, there may be some people who have estates that are subject to being attached after they die. This, I think, is another good reason why it's good that we in Wisconsin didn't take the expanded federal Medicaid money, thanks to another shrewd decision by Governor Walker. 556 News Talk 1130 WISN.
Rapid traffic from the Robert Hack Diamonds Cash for Your Gold Traffic Center.
45 southbound, still staring at delays from Capitol to the Zoo, 23 minutes, Good Hope Road to I-94. It's slow 94 westbound as you get around Miller Park and also up the hill past Sunny Slope Road. Down to 16 minutes, though, from downtown to Moreland Road. 94 eastbound heavy from Moreland back through the Zoo. Also 68th Street to about 35th Street. 17 from Moreland to downtown. 43 southbound is cleared out nicely. If you see traffic problems, call the Westbury Bank Rewards Traffic Tip Line, 414-944-5111. With rapid traffic on News Talk 1130 WISN, I'm John.
Hi, this is Steve Hale, owner of the Pack Mail Center on Bluemont Road in Waukesha. Let me give you a description of one of our other services. We do what's called white glove deliveries. We receive and deliver items from many of the finest interior designers in the area. We make sure the items are all perfect, and we repair any items that may be slightly damaged upon arrival. Our designers know that when an item is delivered by Designer Services, it will be perfect in the eyes of their customer. Our delivery staff is also appreciated because of their great customer service. We do deliveries of extremely expensive medical test equipment for several clients. These clients trust our experience and knowledge so they can be confident their machines will be delivered in perfect condition. We also pick up and ship many items for businesses and individuals. Many times, people need to have something shipped via freight and have no way to get it palletized or crated. We provide palletization and packing services for numerous local and national companies. At Pack Mail, we provide many more services than a typical small package shipper. Give us a call at 877-749-5500. We'd love to discuss how we can be of service to you.
Merry Christmas, kids.
Merry Christmas, Grandma.
I got you kids presents.
Thanks, Grandma.
She always gives us checks.
I know, and then she calls all the time when you don't cash them.
I was going to give you all checks, but you idiots never cash them. So I went down to Shaker's and picked up these packages for you. Here.
Whoa. Grandma, this is absinthe and champagne and glassware. What are these?
Death for the afternoon, you uncultured boobs. My boyfriend Ernie, he made those up in Paris, and he drank them till he died. So sad.
Ernie? Hemingway? Wow, Grandma.
Absinthe for Christmas? From Shaker's? That's very cool, Grandma.
I used to go to Shaker's down there in Walker's Point all the time back when I was young. Back then it wasn't called Shaker's. It was just a gin mill and a brothel. But everyone in town knew it.
Don't give checks this year. Give the gift of history. Give the gift of culture. Give the gift of Shakers. Visit Milwaukee'sHauntedBar.com.
When you need wisdom, seek a guru. When you need to make a wise decision on a remodeling project, you should seek Nick the Construction Guru. I'm Nick Kersner from Kersner Remodeling and Construction.
This Sunday morning at 9, join Nick's guest Pete Kostakis of Global Sight and Sound. That's this Sunday at 9 on News Talk 1130 WISN.
Hi, it's Vicki McKenna. If you enjoy shooting sports, you know the nation's premier modern sporting rifle accessories manufacturer is located right here in Waukesha. Midwest Industries retail store is on Hillside Road, right across the street from Generac. Shop for all the top name brands of rifles, handguns, accessories like BCM, Stag, Glock, Magpul, and Aimpoint. If you need top quality firearms and accessories with outstanding personalized service, there's only one stop you need to make, and that's Midwest Industries. Visit them online at MidwestIndustriesInc.com.
Release the doves and light the candles. She's on her way home from El Spa. Don't work harder, just shop smarter. This holiday season, go to enjoyelspa.com. Gift cards available. Marital bliss guaranteed.
Hi, Bob Pucci and Rocco for the Waukesha Gun Show this weekend at the Waukesha Expo next to the airport. Admission is $7, 14 under free, and register to win a new deer rifle and scope. Show hours are Friday from 3 p.m. to 8, Saturday 9 to 5, and Sunday from 9 to 3.
Hi, I'm Andy Burish. I know that many of you listening to this message have worked years to build a successful business. For you, it's more than a career, it's your legacy. Many of you are concerned about how to protect that legacy. Will it provide for the needs of your children and grandchildren? Will it help sustain the charities you feel most passionate about? Will tax burdens force a liquidation of your business when you're gone? For over 30 years, my team, the Burish Group, has been working with successful business people to provide financial advice for today and generations to come. Our comprehensive strategies touch all areas of your financial life. We call it Advice Beyond Investing. Our process begins with a plan and then employs sophisticated investment tools. It would be my privilege to meet with you and demonstrate how our personal and customized approach to your financial needs can help impact the people and things most important to you. Visit the Burish Group of UBS on the internet or call us at 262-794-0872.
As a firm providing wealth management services to clients, UBS Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC offers both investment advisory and brokerage services. These services are separate and distinct.
Getting you hired. I'm Cheryl Casoni with the Fox Business Network. There are nearly 5 million stay-at-home moms in this country. Today, advice to get them hired. Having the right mindset is crucial, and that means first deciding what you want to do for work, then doing your research. Also, how will the kids react? While still at home, good advice to volunteer at your church, your children's school, or a local charity. These are skills employers will appreciate. Even pro bono office work looks good on a resume. Start calling former colleagues, friends from school, even old teachers you want to begin to network even before the job hunt starts. Companies tend to gravitate to people that they know or friends of friends. Prepare the right resume that emphasizes skills and work experience. Instead of a chronological listing of your jobs with dates, emphasize what you've done working, and being a mom is work. Previous jobs, bottom of the resume. Finally, don't discount re-entering the workforce as an intern or a contract worker. Sometimes all you need is a foot in the door. For more on these opportunities, go to CasoniExchange.com. I'm Cheryl Casoni with the Fox Business Network for Fox News Radio.
News Talk 1130 WISN, Mark Belling, late afternoon show. You heard that Aurora commercial that was running. You're going to be hearing a lot more of this stuff. You know, with Obamacare And these provider networks that are out there, not all of them include all doctors. Aurora's saying, look, you want to choose a plan, be it Obamacare or a plan at your work or whatever, make sure that Aurora is part of it, or you're going to lose all your Aurora doctors. Same thing with doctors and other practices. Obama's claiming you can keep your doctor. Well, a lot of people are going to lose their doctor because the plan that they're going to be saddled with is going to be one that has a thinner provider network. All of this stuff that he said, all of it is going to turn out to be dishonest. He made all of these flat-out platitudes that were never backed by the reality of what's actually written into the law. Earlier in the week, I reported on a Christmas program in the elementary school in the Cedar Grove, Belgium school district that they called the Winter Solstice. The school superintendent that I talked to up there said he didn't know that the winter solstice was a pagan holiday. In fact, that's what the winter solstice is, in addition to being the meteorological term for the day in which winter supposedly begins, because the northern hemisphere has got the shortest amount of sunlight of any day of the year. The winter solstice was traditionally a winter festival celebrated by pagan religions, some in the past, some currently. Those who worshiped planets or worshiped trees or worshiped the earth and so on. It is a religious holiday, a pagan religious holiday. So they don't want to use Christmas as the point of their concert. So instead they choose a different religion's day and evidently don't see a problem with that. The guy up there said, look, I didn't know what the winter solstice was. Okay, you weren't informed. Well, we've got another case of it. I'm contacted by a parent of a student at Cumberland Elementary School in Whitefish Bay. His teacher's putting on a winter solstice festival tomorrow. This parent says, I don't want my son part of this. I don't want him part of a ceremony that has any component of paganism associated. I contacted the school superintendent in Whitefish Bay. She didn't call me back. I talked to the principal briefly before she shuttled me off to the superintendent, the principal at that school, Cumberland Elementary. She also seemed unaware that winter solstice is indeed a pagan ritual, and using that name may not be appropriate. What you're seeing is so many attempts to de-Christmasize Christmas because it has a religious connotation that you end up doing so many things that are stupid, including merely move over to some other type of religion. The value of Bitcoin, we've been following this story, crashing this week. The Chinese government forbidding Bitcoins to be transacted with the Chinese yuan. Given that the Chinese economy will soon overtake the American economy as the largest in the world, if Bitcoin is going to be banned in numerous governments, and China is starting it, saying the Chinese cannot use their yuans, or the yuans, Y-U-A-N, to go out and buy Bitcoin, is this going to happen everywhere? And Bitcoin and all these other internet currencies are simply going to be regulated into non-existence. Bitcoin, which was only a couple of dollars per Bitcoin earlier this year and soared to over 1,000, yesterday crashed down to 400 from 1,000, rallied back up to 600. This is the most volatile thing I have ever seen in my life of following investments. Things that go up and down $200 and $300 in one day. To me, it's the ultimate speculation. I have no understanding of it, and I wouldn't suggest that anyone get involved in buying these for investment purposes unless you're an expert, and I don't know how you could be an expert. And now this. The original I Love Lucy Christmas show is going to be aired tomorrow night on CBS, only it will not be shown in black and white as it was originally produced. They're going to, quote, colorize it. This is a process Ted Turner started 20 years ago by taking black and white movies and adding technology to put artificial color into all of the scenes. And they're now going to do it with the I Love Lucy Christmas special, which first aired, I believe, in 1956. I've got it in here somewhere. It was 1 year back in the 50s. What do you think? Is this traipsing on the artistic integrity of the program? Or now that everybody has color TVs, is it stupid to have black and white? Should these shows be colorized or not? Paul says he doesn't like them being colorized. I don't like them being colorized either. They tried I think 1 year they tried to colorize It's a Wonderful Life by Jimmy Stewart. And there was overwhelming opposition to it. I mean, it would be like saying that Da Vinci's Mona Lisa, she shouldn't be wearing the black dress. She should be wearing something more contemporary and change it. I think that anything. I just think that any artistic product, and that's what these things are, should not be altered later on to fit whatever is in fashion at the time. So I think it's bad that they're doing it. There's no way that I Love Lucy wouldn't be just as entertaining to people if they showed it in black and white, and I suspect that the people who really cared about that program would rather see it the way it was originally produced rather than glorified crayoning of television. Yeah, they did it. Bells of St. Mary and all of those great black and white. They are black and white movies. Keep them that way. 608 News Talk 1130 WI.
Happy holidays from T-Mobile. Let's go. Well, it's Christmas time. Can't you hear? People buy phones this time of year. If you're gonna put a phone underneath the tree, remember not to get it from AT&T. You can get a Samsung without the big price. They got holiday tags on every Galaxy device. No annual service contract. You're totally free. And you'll never pay a single overage fee. T-Mobile's in the house bringing holiday cheer. Unwrap a Galaxy for a Happy New Year.
See participating stores for details.
Hi, Jay Weber for Graybar Furniture. Seems like everyone is being careful how we spend our money these days. We're trying to get every bit of value for our dollar. One way to do it is either restore your old furniture or give it a new look. So how do you know whether you should replace your furniture or restore it instead? Well, take another look at that dining set, the bedroom set, the cedar chest, or the rocker. They've proved their worth. They're still around after generations of use and maybe even some abuse, and they could easily last for generations to come with the proper makeover. That's where Graybar Furniture Works comes in. They use hand sanding and hand-rubbed finishes and proper restoration techniques to restore any and all wood furniture so it will last generations. And there's real value in the older furniture compared to the stuff you can buy today. So call 414-258-2390 for your in-home estimate, 258-2390, or you can visit their website at craiggraybarfurniture.com. Graybar Furniture, they turn ideas into heirlooms.
We turn ideas into heirlooms at Graybar Furniture Works.
Quality heating. You know, before your furnace quits on you, it's not going to give you 2 weeks' notice. Nope, one day out of nowhere, she'll have breathed her last breath. And that's why it's good to know the man in the red van, because he'll never leave you out in the cold. In fact, he can have your new furnace installed in only a few hours. This is Greg Smith from Quality Heating. And this winter, remember the man in the red van for your emergency heating needs.
You gotta see the man in the red van. Quality Heating, Quality Heating.
A York multi-stage variable speed furnace assures even home temperatures during the coldest of winter weather. And the fan motor York has engineered is ultra efficient too. And that matters, because when it comes to your energy bills, electricity efficiency is just as important as gas efficiency. So when you hear built right, built by York, you can bet on it. See the man in the red van, and he'll tell you more about why a high-efficiency York furnace is your best choice.
Quality Heating, Quality Heating.
For a limited time, get EcoSmart triple pane glass with low E and argon gas. A non-prorated lifetime warranty, including glass breakage for life with no interest, no payments for 1 year. ProLightBuildingSupply.com, 262-784-8600.
When golfers look under a tree, they're usually looking for a lost ball. This holiday season, they'll be thrilled to find a Milwaukee County Parks golf gift card instead. They're good at 15 county courses, shipped at no cost. And if you buy $100 worth, you get a bonus $20 free. Go to countyparks.com. That's countyparks.com.
Victory is yours at McDonald's with Xbox. Buy any premium McWrap, quarter pounder, or medium fries, and you have a chance to win one of thousands of Xbox One entertainment systems. With millions of prizes, it's easy to come in a customer and leave a legend. There's something for everyone to win at McDonald's. No purchase necessary. Limit 5 price claims per person per day. Game ends 12/23 or while supplies last. See official rules at participating McDonald's and OneHotHoliday.com. Void where prohibited.
UW Milwaukee men's basketball is on the move. Moving the ball up the floor with breathtaking speed. Moving up the list in the Horizon League standings. And moving almost all of the home games back downtown to the U.S. Cellular Arena. Move your radio dial to News Talk 1130 WISN and catch every minute of this season's play-by-play. These cats ain't no dogs. The UW Milwaukee Panthers on WISN.
That cheap anchorman tipper that Brokaw was talking about. Didn't Anderson Cooper have a thing where they got on him for being a cheap tipper? I don't know. Seems like it could be any of them, doesn't it? You don't just see Dan Rather forking over the big money, do you? Nobody even knows who is an anchorman anymore. Finally, two stories. First, this. The Wisconsin State Senate today did approve that legislation passed earlier in the Assembly that keeps essentially the same rules on health care providing that we have in place now. It's a 3-month extension of the current people that are eligible for Badger Care. This is because of the difficulty in signing up for Obamacare for so many people that are going to be losing Badger Care and be forced into the Obamacare exchanges. The 3-month extension was earlier passed by the State Assembly. It was approved today by the State Senate, along with the other parts of the Walker reforms in an attempt to ease the pain and shelter Wisconsinites, lower-income Wisconsinites, from the mess of having to try to sign up for an Obamacare through a website that is still all fouled up. And now this. Larry Lujack died. He was only 73, which seems way low. Mostly because Larry Lujack hasn't been on the radio in any kind of important job for a quarter century. He had a couple of failed little comebacks here and there, but he hasn't really been a major personality on the radio since he was forced out of WLS in Chicago back in 1987. Hard to believe it was that long. Larry Lujack had an incredible influence on the career of almost everybody who's in radio in my generation and who grew up in the Midwest. He wasn't, I'd say, the first DJ, and that's what they were then, of his style, but he was the best at that style. I can say that he certainly influenced my career in that you wanted to listen to him every day. He spent almost his entire career at WLS in Chicago when it was a classic top 40 rock station, and most of those years as the boarding jock. The thing that influenced me about Larry Lujack is that he made it clear that there weren't any rules. You didn't have to play a certain number of songs an hour. You could talk about anything you felt like talking about. You didn't have to be so rigid that you had to stick to reading promo liners that the station handed for you. You could literally talk about anything that you felt like talking about and be as funny as you want. He knocked down all sorts of walls and barriers. There were other guys that were doing it. So he wasn't the first, but he was probably the funniest. For people of my era, if you ask any of them from our part of the country to cite somebody that you listened to and it made you more interested in going into radio, I'm telling you, almost all of us would say Larry Lujack. I don't want to misquote him, but I believe Rush Limbaugh has said that Larry Lujack was somebody whose program he listened to and had an influence on his career. Rush, of course, was from Cape Girardeau, Missouri. WLS had that signal that you could hear all over the place, and he was just doing things on the radio that you weren't able to find any other place, and it was just so doggone funny. I still remember a stunt. It wasn't a stunt, just the opposite. Something that happened on the radio when Lujack was on that I heard live, and it's written about in most of the obituaries that you see of Lujack today. There was a time in which WLS had both Lujack on in the morning and Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer on in the afternoon. Dahl and Meyer had been working at another station, WLUP. They moved over to WLS-FM, and the station management moved Steve and Gary to AM, which they hated. They thought that AM was a terrible band, which it is, and they resented being put on WLS-AM. So all they did every afternoon on their program was bitch about the station, how much they hated the station, how much they hated being on AM, that they wanted to be back on FM, and how rotten WLS was, that they were stuck on this station with an old goat like Larry Lujack. They ripped their traffic reporter. They ripped everybody associated with it. They did everything in their power to get off of AM and hope that the station would move them back to FM. I was listening the afternoon they were on. It was a Thanksgiving afternoon. I'm guessing probably 84-ish. Or 85, Larry Lujack barges into the studio. Larry was a morning guy. He came in from home, barged into the studio when Steve and Gary were on, challenged them to back up their crap, and Steve and Gary was on crutches, Steve and Gary being wimps, Steve Dahl proving once again that he was the phony that I always felt that he was, slithered out of the studio, and Larry Lujack completed their program. At the time, some people thought it was a stunt. all have since attested that it wasn't a stunt, that there was a true despising of one another involved in that. But listening to it, and I was listening to the radio, I was living in Springfield, Illinois at the time. I was listening to every minute of Steve and Gary in the afternoon and every minute of Lou Jack in the morning that I was in my car or able to. It was just fascinating stuff that was going on there at that time. It was people creating their own rules for radio. It was as free form as you could ever have anywhere. When Lou Jack went in and busted in on Steve and Gary and challenged them after they were ripping on him and ripping on him and ripping on him the entire program, Steve and Gary bailed off live on the air. It was as electric as any moment I've ever heard in radio, ever. I don't know if there's a tape of it circulating around out there. YouTube seems to have audio of everything, but I actually heard it live and so excited about it that after it happened, I remember calling a couple of other people that I knew actually up here and said, did you hear this? Did you hear this? Did you hear this? And it was just all the talk. He was just an unbelievably talented radio guy. And I suspect that the reason that he never really did much after 1987, he died at 73, so that was 26 years ago. His career essentially ended when he was 47 years old. I suspect what happened was he burned out. And burnout is something that happens to a lot of people that are in the creative field. Something I'm determined will never happen to me. But for about 20 years, he was making radio better than just about anybody else ever has. Larry Lou Jack died 73 years old. Out of time for today's show. You ever hear Larry Lou Jack, or is this even before you know? You've heard him, but you weren't a regular. Well, 26 years ago, and it was Chicago. Yeah, I mean, wow. Left WLS in 87. He popped back here and there, and he and Tommy Edwards did some commercials, parodies of their classic animal stories. It's not like he completely disappeared, but his great impact was really in the 70s and the 80s when AM radio still played music and DJs were allowed to intersperse music with real personality formats. It was really good stuff. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Happy trail.